Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Had the Dissociation Quirk? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. The first time it happens, he's 4 years old and he almost gives his poor mother a heart attack. His mom unlocks the apartment door and Izuku sprints inside, skipping and bouncing and beaming from ear to ear. They're just arriving home from a visit to the hospital, a few weeks since Izuku's 4th birthday. I knew it. Izuku says brightly, punching both fists into the air. I knew I had a quirk. I knew I did. His mom smiles right along with him, pulling the door shut behind her. I'm so happy for you, Izuku, she says, beaming. I wonder what your quirk will be? I hope it's something heroic. Izuku proclaims ecstatically. He's always dreamed of the day he finally got his quirk, and he has a few ideas in mind of what he wants it to be. I want to be able to save people. It happens at that moment Izuku feels this odd, pulling sensation in his chest, and then suddenly he's in the air. His feet don't touch the ground and he feels that weird. Like he's missing something. There's a thud from below, and Izuku looks down. He sees himself crumpled on the floor, lifeless and still. He blinks. Izuku, his mom shrieks, her eyes going wide with fear. He blinks again for lack of better thing to do. What just happened? His mother screams and rushes towards his body, a body Izuku isn't currently. It doesn't make sense, but it seems right in his mind, for some reason. No, I'm okay, Mom. Izuku exclaims, hoping she can hear him. She does, and her head snaps up, her arms cradling his lifeless body. It's weird to look at. His mother stares at him. Or rather, through him, he guesses. It doesn't seem like she can actually see him. Izuku, she calls, voice laced with horror, but also relief. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm right here. Izuku calls back, beaming even brighter. He looks down at himself, curious. He can see the floor through his hands, and he's wearing the same clothes as his physical body. He's completely transparent. Mom, I think this is my quirk. Izuku exclaims, head snapping up and smile getting wider. I can leave my body. He says it like it's a good thing, but his mother just seems vaguely terrified. Izuku, can you come back? She asks, her voice trembling, and Izuku realizes that, he should probably check that. As much fun as it is to just float without a care in the world, it'd be unfortunate if he can't actually return to his body. Oh, he says, and he shuts his eyes for a moment, concentrating. He feels the tug again, and this time, he's physically yanked. When he opens his eyes, he's back in his body, in his mom's arms, and she's staring down at him. Izuku, she cries, hugging him tightly. What? He squirms, and she lets him go, though reluctantly. I found it, he says excitedly, and his mother continues to stare at him. I found my quirk. Wait, let me see if I can do it again. Izuku. His body hits the floor as his spirit takes air. Izuku. By the time he's 7 he's learned to control it. For the most part. There are a few times he slips up by accident. He stops paying attention to the teacher during class and his spirit subconsciously zips out of his body, just like that. On one occasion, a paramedic actually showed up at the school because the teacher freaked and called an ambulance. It wasn't until his mother explained it to the teachers that, yes, I know it's strange, but this is actually his quirk. It's odd, I know, but he's fine, that they finally calmed down. And now Izuku does it for fun. He's still practicing, still trying to get the hang of it, because if he wants to become a hero, he's going to have to figure out how the dang quirk works. Look. His mother turns. And then she jumps. Izuku is holding a book, the first time he's ever picked something up as a ghost. Look, I figured out how pick stuff up, he cheers to his mother. Of course, it looks simply like there's a book floating by her face, but she knows it's him, so it's fine. Izuku is too excited to care how it looks right now. And new Izuku concentrates. The book falls through his hands and hits the floor below. It's gone. Izuku finishes and he beams. His mother blinks, then smiles. I'm happy you're learning to control it, Izuku, she says, like she always does when he improves. Just, please don't warn me next time when you're not actually in your body, okay, sweetheart? Okay. Izuku chirps, and he floats off to find his body. He can't quite remember where he left it. When he returns to his body, the first thing he does is race to the bathroom and throw up. Seems he can't hold on to things for very long without some kind of real, physical backlash. Izuku hates junior high, really, truly hates it, and it's not because he hates learning. It's because Kaken is there and Kaken hurts. Hurts him. You think you can be a hero with some useless quirk like that? Kaken snarls at him, so close to his face that Izuku can feel his spit on his cheeks. His hands are on Izuku's shoulders, slamming him against the school locker, and his nails dig into Izuku's skin, and it hurts, it hurts, it hurts so badly. Izuku shuts his eyes tightly. And then the pain stops, and he's floating above his limp body. His body crumples to the floor, sliding out of Kaken's grip, and Kaken shrieks and stumbles back. He knows about Izuku's quirk, he just never expects it. Kaken growls, hands trembling at his sides. Deku, he screeches, and Izuku swallows back sobs, cupping his hands around his mouth. Kaken can't hurt him when he's a ghost, but that doesn't mean he isn't scared. Get back here. Is this the kind of person you want to be, huh? Just some worthless coward? No, Izuku thinks, staring at the floor through his translucent shoes, it isn't. But I don't want to hurt anymore. He waits for Kaken to finally leave before slipping back into his body. He has a new bruise on his head from smacking the floor, and his shoulders ache and burn, but at least Kaken is gone. His mother's gotten used to him coming home with bruises. His quirk isn't exactly the safest to use unless he's on a bed or couch when he activates it. He always ends up with new bruises, or scratches, depending on where and how hard he falls. But not burns. Never burns. He steps into the apartment, closes the door behind him, and immediately pulls his sleeve further down so it covers his wrist. Welcome home, Izuku, his mother calls from further inside the apartment. She knows it's him. He's the only one other than her who has a key. Izuku hears water running at the sink, the water cuts, and footsteps replace it. A part of Izuku wants to run, to zip out of his body and dart up his room. He doesn't. And even if he did, it'd be counterproductive. Mom would find his body anyway, find the burns and bruises that for once weren't caused by his own quirk, and she'd eventually find Izuku his ghost no matter how silent he was. He'd never been very good at hiding from her. Maybe it's a mother thing. She turns the corner, smiling, and then, when she catches sight of his face, the smile melts into horror. She races towards him, and he turns his head so he doesn't have to meet her eyes. She takes his hands in hers, and he winces when her fingertips brush the burns. Burns that weren't there when he left for school this morning. Burns Kaken gave him. Izuku, what happened? Mom asks, voice soaked with fear. He doesn't answer, and she cups his face in her hands and turns his head so he looks at her. She inhales sharply, one hand brushing his hair off his forehead, where the biggest bruise is. What happened? She's more urgent this time, holding his gaze even as he fights to look away. Izuku, tell me what happened, Izuku. He can't help it. A tug pulls his ghost away, and his mother catches his body before it hits the floor. Izuku, his mother snaps, hooking her arms beneath his to keep his limp body from hitting the ground. She's angry now, but Izuku knows it's just because she's worried. If you don't tell me what happened. I'm sorry. Izuku's voice is more shrill than he means it to be, and he slips back into his body immediately. The pain returns, spiking through his wrists and shoulders and head, and he winces. His mother releases him, but keeps her hands on his shoulders, just in case. I didn't mean to do that, Izuku pants. He feels oddly out of breath, but he doesn't know why. Sometimes and I'm overwhelmed. He swishes a hand through the air, voice shaking as he tries not to cry. Oh, zoom. He tries to make light of it, he really does. His mother isn't having it. That bruise on your head, she says, moving his hair out of the way again. Her fingers ghost over the bruise, ghost, and he winces, dull pain shooting through it. You dissociated again. That's what they call it, dissociation. To Izuku's knowledge, there isn't another quirk quite like his in existence, so they gave it its own name. Dissociation. That's his quirk. Convenient sometimes, but mostly just annoying. Izuku seeks in a sharp breath. His eyes burn with tears, but he nods. Why? His mother asks, desperate now. I understand that bruise, but Izuku. That's the problem. He has tons of bruises, and only a handful of them are because of his quirk. Not to mention the burns. Izuku, why? He chokes on a sob and shakes his head feverishly, bringing his hands towards his face and rubbing his eyes with his knuckles. His mother's hands slide from his shoulders to his back, and she hugs him tightly. A second later, he hugs her back. His physical body hurts, and he wants to abandon it again just so he doesn't feel its pain. But he can't feel his mother's hugs in his other form, so he stays this way for now. The next morning, Izuku tells her exactly what happened. He doesn't want to, but he trusts her more than he trusts anybody else. He knows that she loves him and that she'd want to know if he's being bullied, which he is. He tells her about Kaken. She listens, nodding periodically, until he finally finishes his story and falls silent. After that, she rises to her feet and picks up her phone. She calls Kaken's mother first, then the school. Izuku transfers to a different school a week later. No more Kaken. When he's 14, he's attacked by a villain. A villain with a body made of slime and well, Izuku doesn't know what else, but it smells rancid and rotten, and Izuku tries to run, but he isn't fast enough. The monster grabs him, restrains him, chokes him, and Izuku struggles and kicks and tries to scream, but he can't because he's choking, no, because he's drowning. He dissociates. His body falls limp and his ghost soars into the air. He feels something different this time, a more distinguishable, noticeable tug, and he realizes it's because he's dying. Because he's being killed. He flies. He phases through the villain's head, hoping the feeling is enough to startle it. The villain does notice it, and for just a moment, he raises his head and looks around, confused. Izuku thinks, giving himself a mental high five. Yes, I did it. A gust of wind shoots out of nowhere, and Izuku screeches, sent flying backwards through the air, out of the tunnel and back into the open. The slime villain and Izuku's lifeless body fly with him, the slime villain's body splashing and scattering in all directions. Izuku's own body is on the ground in a heap, unmoving, and Izuku moves towards it curiously. Welp, that just happened, he thinks, and he slips back into his body. He aches all over, and his head pounds something awful, but he's alive, and he's not unconscious, which is good. He pushes himself off the ground and raises a hand to his head, wincing. I must have been saved by a hero, Izuku thinks. His fingers touch a bruise on his head, and he yanks them back, hissing through his teeth. Guess that's a good thing. There's only so much my quirk can do against a villain that doesn't actually have a true body like most people. He hears footsteps and lifts his head further. Immediately, his eyes go wide with shock. It's All Might. All Might saved him. Izuku has to fight to hold his ghost in his body, when really he wants to shoot up into outer space and scream it to the universe. All Might had always been his inspiration ever since he was little, before he even found his quirk. To actually meet him face to face like this was it's amazing. Hello there, my boy. All Might says, and Izuku comes so close to dissociating just because he can't believe it. He feels, quite literally, floaty, and it takes every effort not to zoom straight into the stratosphere. I'm sorry for getting you caught up with all that. Are you all right? Izuku nods frantically, beaming so brightly it hurts. You're my idol, he blurts, before he can stop himself. And then, all in one breath, holy crap, I've been wanting to meet you for I have so many questions. He rambles on, and All Might chuckles, gathered the remains of the sludge villain's body into 2 identical soda bottles? That's what they look like. Izuku wonders how so much slime can fit into such a small space, but then again, this is All Might, so he shouldn't be surprised by anything. And Naivia Waste looked up Toyu and Durizo Kulin, thanks for saving me, and All Might chuckles again, but this time he speaks. Well, you're quite the chatterbox, aren't you? He asks, and Izuku blushes, twisting his shoe into the ground. That's quite all right, my boy. However, as much as I'd love to stay and chat, I have to be somewhere. Izuku's head snaps up again. Wait, you're leaving? Crime doesn't turn itself in. But I. All Might claps his hands together, like he's pleading his case. Sorry kiddo, but I've really gotta go. Message me on my website, woulja? All Might turns away. Thank you for your continued support. WP please. Izuku reaches out. Around the same time, All Might crouches to blast into the sky. It's not really a conscious decision, and Izuku doesn't really mean to do it. He latches onto All Might's leg with his actual body. Dissociating right now wouldn't do any good, and the hero launches into the sky with force to rival a rocket's. Honestly, with that whiplash, Izuku wonders if his soul shouldn't be ripped from his body. That, All Might says, spinning around to face him, was incredibly stupid. While I admire the tenacity of youth, there is a fine line between tenacious and insanity. Izuku is too busy trying to suck air back into his lungs to answer. They're on a rooftop, where All Might landed shortly after blasting off, and Izuku feels vaguely like he's being strangled. He agrees with All Might here. It was incredibly reckless, the thing he'd done. But that doesn't matter. He leaps to his feet. All Might signify, "No, I'm out of time, my boy," All Might says, heading for the edge of the roof. Sorry for running, but there's somewhere I need to be. I have some unfinished business to attend to. WP plea. Kiddo, I'm sorry, but I can't. Can I be a hero with a useless quirk? His voice has risen in pitch, an entire octave at that. He isn't sure whether All Might understood him until the hero stops and glances over his shoulder. Izuku stops, struggling to find the words. His hands clench and unclench at his sides. I was born with an essentially useless quirk, he explains hesitantly. Kaken's words, punches and jeers come back to him all at once, and he winces. Even if my quirk isn't suitable for being a hero, can I still become one? His voice is a squeak now, a desperate plea, and after that he braces himself, waits, hopes. An unsuitable quirk? All Might begins, but doesn't finish. There's a burst of steam and smoke, and Izuku throws up his hands to brace himself. The answer is no. All Might's answer is no, anyway. No, he can't be a hero with his measly power. Izuku hadn't explained what it was. He'd been too shocked to do so, in fact. All Might told him his greatest secret, that his smile was a lie to hide the truth, that, with little to no power, it was impossible to become a hero. At that point Izuku's quirk hadn't even mattered, because Izuku had been hoping for a miracle and that hope was crushed. Now, Izuku walks down sidewalks, keeping head down. That floaty feeling is gone and he's left with an odd emptiness, despite the fact that his soul is still very much attached to his physical body. As he walks, he cries. A couple bystanders give him weird looks, but he doesn't even care. He's tried his best. He was born with a quirk, learned how to control his quirk. For the most part there are times when his emotions are enough to shake his soul from his body, but for the most part he can control it. He's only ever dreamed of becoming a hero. It's all he wants. But he wants to scream. He wants to abandon his body somewhere and just float up into space and never be seen again. Kaken's going to keep hitting him, keep hurting him and burning him. They don't go to the same school anymore, but it's going to happen if Izuku tries becoming a hero. It's like All Might said. In the end, Izuku knew it would turn out like this. With his power, he may as well just be quirkless, right? An explosion snaps him from his thoughts, and his head whips around. Smoke rises a few blocks down. He hears screams and shouts and watches as citizens disperse and run in all directions. It's a villain attack. He knows it's a villain attack. His feet move on their own as he goes to investigate. It's not just any villain. It's the slime villain. The slime villain who attacked Izuku earlier, and he has a hostage now. That's what the nearby citizens are screaming. The villain has a hostage, and it's a boy, a kid, and Izuku squeezes through the crowd to look, and it's Kaken. It's Kaken and he's thrashing. And screaming and yelling, and his eyes are so furious but also so scared, and Izuku doesn't think he's ever seen Kaken look like this. Kaken, his bully. Kaken, who made Izuku transfer schools. Kaken, screaming and thrashing and scared. And Izuku doesn't think. Doesn't give himself the chance to think. He sprints. His feet slam into the ground, one after the other, over and over and over again as he runs. This is bad, this is horrible, and he can't let the villain take Kaken's life. He doesn't know why. He hates Kaken and Kaken hates him, and he doesn't know why he wants to save him so desperately. He doesn't know why, only that he does. He doesn't dissociate that hadn't worked on the slime villain earlier, so he doesn't do it again. Rather, he swings his backpack around and hurls it with all his might at the slime villain's bulging eyes. A notebook flies free, stabs the slime villain in the eye with the corner, and the villain lets out a roar of pain, releasing his grip on Kaken for a mere second. Kaken coughs, chokes, tries to get his breath back. Izuku claws and grabs at the villain's body, trying to pull Kaken free. "You worth'll get out of here." Kaken yells furiously, glaring at Izuku like he's the one attacking him, not the slime villain. "You worthless piece of crap, I don't need your help." "Shut up." Izuku snaps back at him, suddenly very furious. He's crying now, sure, but he's angrier than he's been in a long time. "Shut up, Kaken. Do you think I care that you don't think you need my help? Do you think I care about that at all?" Kaken falls silent immediately. "You aren't some kind of immortal, unstoppable being, Kaken, you're human." Izuku cries, voice breaking. "You're human just like I am. And I can't just stand back and let you die." And then All Might steps in. The situation is resolved within the next 10 seconds. Izuku wonders if it'd be rude to dissociate and sink right into the ground. He knows that he most certainly could, what with his quirk, but he decides not to. It would be pretty rude. What said, "Screw you," more than leaving your body and sinking into the ground? A couple of pros are chewing him out, telling him that it was dumb to step in and that he could have been killed. They're angry, all of them, scolding him and telling him he's an idiot. Izuku apologizes but doesn't mean it. He'd do it again in a heartbeat. All Might is swamped by reporters, so Izuku doesn't bother trying to talk to him this time. Not right now, at the very least. When the pros are finally done chewing Izuku out, he gets to his feet and runs home. He never looks back once. He tumbles through the door and immediately dissociates. He flees his body and shoots up to his room. He hears his mother call after him, but doesn't really care. She'll find him in a few seconds, but he's going to take those few seconds to gather his thoughts. Outside his own body, "Thank you very much. Izuku? Izu-H." His mother must have found his body. Now he feels bad for not warning her. You would think, though, that she'd be used to seeing his lifeless body crumpled in random places. So, he hears her footsteps, storming up towards his room, and he hovers over his bed and braces himself. Mom flings open the door. Her eyes are watering, but her teeth are gritted. "You have no reason to be doing that, young man." Mom shouts at him, or, not directly at him, she can't see him, of course. Izuku flinches, staring through his shoes at the ground. "Go get your body, Izuku. You can't keep doing that." She leaves the room, and he waits until she steps off the last stair before fleeing back towards his physical body. He slips inside. The pain starts immediately, this time on his arm. A new bruise, then hoop-de-doo. His mother is right, he really does have to stop doing that. He's going to wind up seriously hurting himself one of these days. He stands and slinks into the kitchen, dragging his feet. He hears Mom bustling about, opening and closing the freezer door. A second later, she steps in front of him and hands him an ice pack. He takes it and presses it to his arm. "Thanks, Mom," he says. She nods wordlessly, then speaks. "I saw the news." Izuku tenses. If Mom notices, she gives no indication that she does. Rather, she plunges on. "You leapt in there to save that Katsuki boy, even though," her eyes water, but the tears don't fall. "Even though he..." Izuku swallows thickly. "He was scared, Mom. He was in danger. I couldn't just..." "I know he was, I just..." Mom wrings her hands together, then sighs and shakes her head. When she meets his gaze again, she's smiling gently, but there's pain in her eyes. "You really are too golden-hearted for your own good, Izuku." Izuku bites his lip. It's probably going to get me killed someday. Or, if toppling down the stairs again doesn't. His mother frowns. I know you're trying to be funny, but it's not funny. I know. He lowers the ice. The bruise stings, but he's had worse. Mom takes the ice pack from his hand and puts it back in the freezer. The heroes who were on site at the time, she begins. What did they say to you jumping in like that? Oh, they were mad at me. Izuku shifts his weight awkwardly. They chewed me out pretty good, said I must have had some kind of a death wish. Mom freezes, hands still on the door. Mom? They chewed you out, his mother says, and there's venom in her tone. Izuku takes a step backwards. They were going to stand back and let that boy die, and they chewed you out for helping. It's fine, Mom. I don't think it's fine, Mom snaps, and Izuku takes another step backwards. They slack off on their jobs so badly a boy has to jump in, and then they scold the boy for it? I know, B, but Izuku shifts again. You don't need to get so upset about it, really. I'm fine, it's fine, I promise. The problem is, he's really not sure whether or not he means it. His mom accepts it, though, although she doesn't seem happy about it. I know, she says. I'm sorry for shouting at you when you came in. That wasn't right. It's okay, Izuku answers, running a hand through his hair. You're right, I should stop dropping like that. Someday I'll get better with that, I promise, just. A light bulb goes off in his head, and he grins. Nobody knows when. His mother stares at him. Izuku. Izuku. And he's gone again. The next day SCKS. If the bullying ended the day he transferred schools and got away from Kaken, it'd be all he could ever ask for. Unfortunately, it didn't. It's not nearly as bad at his new school, considering Kaken isn't here, but even so, it SCKS. It royally SCKS. Oh look, it's the freak who went after the slime villain, one of said bullies jeers, pointing at him. Behind him, two other bullies laugh and cackle. Hey, what were you trying to do, huh? Be a hero? Stop it, Izuku hisses under his breath, not that it's ever done any good. Not that it'll ever do any good. The bullies laugh just a little louder, and Izuku Power walks out of the classroom. He endures the school day without zooming out of his body, though he's come close a fair few times, then heads home with a heavy heart. He makes it to his neighborhood. And then a voice calls out to him. My boy! Izuku freezes, 1 foot still in the air mid-step, and spins around. All Might not the hero, but the person, his true form sprints towards him, looking frantic. Welp, Izuku thinks, a pull at his chest, guess I'll die. Hold on, All Might pants, and Izuku barely manages to keep his ghost attached to his body where it belongs. All Might straightens up to look at him, panting like he'd run the whole way. I'm not sorry that I didn't contact you sooner, All Might breathes. You ran home as soon as the incident was resolved and, well, I couldn't shake the press fast enough to get to you. I'm truly sorry. Izuku is shaking his head before All Might finishes speaking. No, it's okay, he says, waving his hands back and forth. It's really fine, honest. After all, he lowers his hands and looks down at his shoes, for once not translucent. That I'm the one who got in the way. I'm sorry. That's where you're wrong, kiddo. Izuku stops and his head snaps up. All Might smiles back at him. If it wasn't for you, All Might says, I wouldn't have been spurred to act when I did. Izuku's eyes go wide. On the rooftop, yesterday, All Might's voice is thick. I said some things that I regret, some things that I know hurt you. I told you couldn't become a hero, and that was wrong of me. I'm sorry. And he raises a finger as Izuku opens his mouth, and Izuku stops, letting the hero continue. That I'm here now to tell you something. Something I should have said the day I met you. Izuku listens, holding on to every word. Top heroes have stories from their school days, All Might begins slowly. And most of those stories have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had the chance to think. And then, Izuku's hit with it. His eyes burn, and he ducks his head, his chest filling with knots. When All Might speaks again, there's a smile in his words. That happened to you too, didn't it? Izuku nods, teeth gritted. His knees hit the asphalt, his hands clutch his chest, and he sobs. Midoriya.my boy, you can become a hero. The tears flow. The dam breaks. He's overwhelmed. He ties his spirit to his body, because right now would be a bad time to drop. Is this happening? Is this really happening right now? He can't believe it. He's almost scared to believe it. This is it, he thinks, his throat tight, like he's being strangled. This is it can't get any better than this, it can't. I deem you worthy of my power, All Might goes on. My quirk is yours to inherit. Izuku's head snaps up, tears flying. His mind goes blank. What? My quirk, All Might continues, like that makes any more sense. If you'll accept it, I'd like to make you my successor. What? My quirk, All Might says for a third time. It's a power to pass on power, a power to carry hope and light through generations to come. The incarnation of power, one might say, cultivated from one user to the other. It's called. At this, All Might pauses dramatically. Point one for all. Cultivated from generation to generation. A light to pierce through the darkness. A hope when there is no other hope. Izuku blinks. 1.4 all? Exactly. All Might says, swinging an arm around to point at him. And if you'll accept it, that then this power is yours. Izuku blinks again. He's asking me if I want his power. Asking me if I want what could possibly be the most powerful quirk in the world. I can be a hero. With this power, no, with his power. Is it really possible? Can I really? I'd understand if you want more time to think about it, All Might says, turning away briefly. It's a hard decision to make, I'm sure, but I'll do it. All Might spins towards him again. Well, that was quick. You sure, kiddo? You've thought it over? Izuku nods shakily. If I can become a hero, he says, then I want to try. I want to be a hero more than anything else in the world, so I'll do it. All Might smiles. In that case, my boy, he says, I look forward to working with you. Oh, hold on. He pauses, resting his chin in his hand for a moment. You mentioned having a quirk, he says, to which Izuku nods. Well, would you mind sharing just what kind of quirk that is? Oh. Izuku says, he wipes the remaining tear tracks off his face with his sleeves, then grins. I can do this. He snaps his fingers, just to be dramatic, and his spirit leaves his body to crumple on the ground in a heap. Izuku hadn't thought it possible for a grown man to make such a shrill, high-pitched noise, but life is full of surprises. Izuku tumbles through the front door and immediately falls, catching himself on his hands and knees. His eyes burn as he gasps for breath, and his chest feels oddly tight. Further into the house, he hears running water. Izuku, if I walk out there and your body's on the porch, I'm going to be upset. And no, I'm still in my body. Izuku hollers back, shakily getting to his feet. He hears the tap cut, followed by footsteps. His mother turns the corner from the kitchen, drying her hands on her apron. She takes one look at his face, and her eyes go wide. What happened? She asks, and of course she expects the worst. She's learned to expect the worst. And nothing happened, Izuku assures her, and then, a second later, nothing bad happened, it's just there's this thing that happened, it's K kind of. She steps forward and settles her hands on his forearms. Izuku. Why yeah. Calm down. You're going to do it again. Did you got us, see? His mother nods. Of course. She doesn't release him, merely guides him out of the doorway and into the living room. Izuku drags his feet as he follows. His spirit longs to zip out of his body and disappear into the floor or something, but he represses the urge. They sit down on the couch, and while Mom turns to him, Izuku turns the other way, fidgeting nervously. This is so Izuku messes with a loose string on his shirt. That I met All Might today. Mom's eyes go wide. You actually met him? She asks, to which Izuku nods. Izuku, that's wonderful, she exclaims. What's the problem then? What are you nervous about? Hiskad my fiwanteroba his successor randai seidais. His mother blinks. Izuku. Izuku takes in a breath. He asked me to be his successor, he answers at length, calming down enough to form coherent sentences. And I said yes. He watches his mother's eyes widen with shock, watches her cup both hands around her mouth. Didn't freak out. Izuku shrieks, like the complete hypocrite that he is, his voice an octave higher than usual. Just let me explain it, okay? She doesn't look any less horrified, but she nods, and Izuku tells her everything about One for All, that is. He leaves out All Might's true form for now, merely because he isn't sure that's something the hero wants to be shared, but nothing else is hidden. He tells her about One for All, how it's a quirk that cultivates power, to be passed down through generations to maintain hope and peace. She listens, taking this in and nodding periodically. The look on her face doesn't change, though, which is a little concerning. I said yes. Izuku finishes, his chest tight. More than ever, he wants to zip off and hide in a closet somewhere. Or maybe just phase through the floor, that's an option too. He offered me his power, and I said yes. Mom stares at him. Izuku, that's... I know it's crazy. Izuku blurts, before he knows what he's saying. He runs both hands through his hair and leaves them there, tugging at his locks. I know it's insane, I know it's unbelievable, and it's crazy, and it's dangerous, but you think you can become a hero with some useless quirk like that? Is he even human? That's a really weird quirk. Creepy. He's creepy, that's what. Like some kind of ghost out of a scary movie. Is this the kind of person you want to be, huh? Just some worthless coward? There's no other way, Izuku says, raising his head to meet her gaze. She looks no less reassured, no less horrified, but she's listening. If I want to be a hero, this is how I have to do it. He ducks his head and waits for the storm. Izuku. He asks in a sharp breath. Izuku, look at me. I don't want to, he thinks, but raises his head anyway. She looks at him, takes his hands in hers and holds his gaze. I'm proud of you, Izuku, Mom says, her voice shaking. You've always done your best, always tried to do the right thing, and if you want to be All Might's successor, if it's something that you want and not something you're being pressured into, then then I'll support you. Izuku blinks. His eyes burn. Mom. You have to promise me something though, Izuku, she says quickly, squeezing his fingers, and he nods and waits. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me that you'll... She pauses, that is in a breath. Promise you'll always come home to me. Izuku nods readily. I promise, he says. Even if I have to abandon my body to do it. She laughs weakly and shakes her head. I'd really rather you didn't do that, Izuku, she says. You know I don't like it. I know, I'm kidding, he says, and he smiles. Thank you. You're welcome. She smiles back. And, I'm assuming this isn't something you can talk about freely. This becoming All Might's successor, I mean. Izuku shakes his head immediately. And not at all, he says. All Might said it was alright if I told you, but yeah, it's supposed to be a secret because... He doesn't finish, and he doesn't need to. She nods in understanding, squeezing his fingers again. I know, she says, biting her lip for a moment. If anyone else were to find out. There are a couple reasons, really. The first one has to do with keeping peace and hope at the forefront of society. To maintain a beacon to light back the darkness. The second, closer to home, reason has to do with Izuku's personal safety. Because what villains wouldn't try to forcefully steal All Might's power away from him at any means necessary? He shakes his head. That isn't a pleasant thought. His mother rises to her feet, releasing his hands, and Izuku stands. I have dinner ready if you're hungry, she offers. Izuku beams. Starving. Remind me why I'm doing this again? Izuku gasps, on his hands and knees in the sand with a rope clutched in his balled fists. The other end of the rope is tied around a trashed, broken refrigerator. It's like I said. All Might. Answer simply. You aren't a proper vessel yet, my boy. Izuku presses his forehead into the dirt. That's the opposite of what you said yesterday. No, you misunderstand me, All Might continues, and Izuku lifts his head. In heart and in spirit, you're the perfect vessel for One for All. However, physically, he gestures vaguely in Izuku's general direction. That we have some work to do. If you force one for all onto an unprepared vessel, it's highly likely that your limbs will blow off. Izuku blinks. My limbs will what now? Anyway, he changed the subject. Izuku thinks darkly. That's why we're here now. All Might goes on, spreading his arms and gesturing at the beach, loaded with garbage as far as the eye can see. Your first objective as a hero to be, young Midoriya is clearing this horizon. Izuku blinks at the garbage. Binks at All Might. What? The boy has no presence. Sometimes, Toshinori thinks he's alone, only to turn and see the boy standing in the corner of his eye. It scared the living daylights out of him more than once, and the boy apologizes profusely every time, swearing that he didn't mean to startle him and that he'll try not to do it again. Except, it does happen again, several times, because the boy simply has no presence. It's like he's not even there, even when he is in his physical form. And Toshinori wishes that's the most unsettling thing there is about Izuku Midoriya. Tell me more about your quirk, my boy, Toshinori offers. Izuku is on the ground, face down in the sand, back heaving with every breath. Izuku raises his head and spits sand out of his mouth. There's really not much to it, he pants, pushing himself off the ground. Sweat sticks sand to his forearms, but he makes no move to wipe it away. He stopped doing that a while ago. I just turn into a ghost. Don't be so quick to write it off, Toshinori says, shaking his head. I don't think I've ever heard of something quite like it before. Tell me, Midoriya, what happens to your body when you, leave it? Am I actual body? Toshinori nods. Do you still breathe? Does your heart stop? That sort of thing. Oh. Izuku wipes sand off his face with his hands. It's counterproductive, though, because there's sand on his knuckles too. It's kinda confusing. My heart doesn't stop, and I still breathe, but it's really faint, I guess? Like, my breathing is really shallow, and you can't hear my heartbeat unless you really listen out for it. I see. Toshinori thinks this over. It's a bit terrifying, though, when he thinks about it too much, so he moves on quickly. Does it have any negative physical effect on your body, or? Not unless I try interacting with the physical world, Izuku answers plainly. If I do that for more than a few seconds, it usually makes me nauseous. And I can't go longer than 12 hours outside my body. Toshinori blinks. That's new. Why not? I don't know. Izuku pauses, looks down at the sand. He grabs a fistful of it and lets it run through his fingers. A nervous habit, perhaps. I've never actually done it. Just, whenever it gets close to being 12 hours, I just start feeling strangled. Which is weird because ghosts don't have lungs, but I don't know, it's strange. I'm scared to find out what would happen if I actually, stayed out for longer than 12 hours. If you think it's dangerous to attempt, you should avoid it, Toshinori advises. Your quirk is an odd one, my boy. If you think something might be wrong, you're best stopping while you're ahead. Now then. He claps his hands together. Please resume. Izuku scrambles to his feet, salutes cheesily, and runs off. Toshinori has seen Izuku die, for lack of better word, a fair amount of times thus far, but that doesn't mean he'll ever get used to it. There's no warning, never a warning, never any indication that he's about to drop. He could be smiling and laughing one moment, and the next moment, his eyes roll back in his head and he's limp and unmoving on the ground. Toshinori wonders, briefly, if Izuku realizes how terrifying a sight it is to behold. To watch a kid just drop like that, for no apparent reason. The first time Izuku did it, Toshinori had actually panicked, because there was no way the boy could just drop like that in his own free will. Except he did. Except he does. Well, Toshinori doesn't really know what to think about that. And then there's the scar. Toshinori noticed it the day they met, but never brought it up. Izuku has a rather large scar that starts at his left temple, cuts diagonally along the bridge of his nose, then ends at his right cheek. It's jagged and white and far too prominent for a boy his age, and Toshinori has no idea how it got there. He doesn't mention it for a long time. After all, Toshinori has scars of his own, scars he doesn't like to talk about, and he thinks that maybe Izuku sees his scar the same way. Except, curiosity gets the better of him eventually, and he asks, "Midoriya, my boy, how did you get that scar?" Izuku frowns at him. He's loading a box of something into the back of a truck. Toshinori doesn't know what this something is, only that it must be heavy, considering Izuku's struggle. Oh! Izuku pushes the box over the edge and turns towards him fully, ignoring the crash and shatter as the box tips into the back of the truck. This. He traces the scar on his face with his index finger, like he's done it 1,000,000 times. Toshinori nods. "And you don't have to tell me if you don't feel comfortable," I simply. No, it's fine." Izuku stammers in his haste to answer, and then he laughs shakily, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's actually a pretty funny story. Do you want to hear it? If you're alright with sharing." This is definitely the right thing to say, because Izuku beams and launches right into it. So, right after I transferred schools in junior high, this kid in my class thought it'd be funny to prank the new kid in front of everybody in the class. Something about public humiliation, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, he ended up actually doing it, and he scared me so badly I just, took off. Izuku laughs again, less shakily this time, and he goes on, gesturing with his hands. "So picture this. I'm a ghost, and my physical head slams into the side of the desk," Izuku explains animatedly. "My classmates didn't know about my quirk yet, though, so to them it just looked like I dropped dead, I think. Anyway, so I split my head open, there's blood all over the desk, and everyone just starts screaming, and I'm just floating there, watching it all go down. I was kinda scared, I think, because I didn't try calling out to anyone to let them know I was okay. The teacher freaked, he was worse than everyone else, and..." The boy goes on like this for quite some time, explaining the entire story, and Toshinori is relieved. At least the boy doesn't have emotional burdens attached to his scars. Except he mentioned transferring schools. Transferring schools. That's new information. 10 months fly by, and the day of the UA entrance exam arrives. To say Izuku is nervous would be the greatest understatement in the world. He completed his task and cleared the horizon of Dagoba Beach. The first rays of sunlight stretch over the sands, bathing it orange and yellow. There isn't a piece of garbage in sight. "You did well, my boy," All Might says, beaming, but of course that's a given. And just in the nick of time, too. Izuku manages a shaky smile. He's covered in sweat and dirt and who knows what else, but none of that matters. 10 months. 10 months of working himself to the ground, and he's finally here. He's made it. There was a finish line set before him, and he's finally crossed it. He sniffs, wiping his eyes with the backs of his hands. "I almost doesn't seem fair," he murmurs, throat tight. "Why are you giving me this power, I mean?" "What do you mean?" All Might asks quizzically. "Midoriya, receiving something and earning something are two very different things. And believe me, you earned this power through your own efforts." Izuku wipes his eyes with the back of his hand, then straightens up. That's right, he thinks. 10 long months of training, clearing the horizon. Becoming a hero. All Might plucks a strand of hair from his head. "This is my start. Eat this," All Might says, holding the strand out to him. Izuku blinks. "What?" Mental note, hair does not go down easily. It's unpleasant, and throughout the entirety of the day, Izuku finds himself swallowing reflexively. He tries not to think about it, really, he does, but he has a knack for overthinking things. He sits in a deep breath, staring at the towering building before him. UA High, the high school of his dreams, and he's finally able to go, finally able to take the entrance exam. Finally able to become a hero. Kaken storms past him, and on instinct, Izuku springs out of the way. Kaken doesn't talk to him, doesn't give him so much as a glance. He storms up the front steps with a group of students and disappears within the double doors. Izuku is left there, staring for a moment or two, then he shakes his head feverishly, setting his resolve. This is it, he tells himself, starting towards the doors. The first step. To becoming a hero. And with that, he promptly trips over his own feet and falls towards the ground. Well, this is the end, He thinks he's crumpled to the ground enough times that it doesn't really bother him anymore. He stops. Midair he stops. And it's not because of anything he did. He stares at the ground, inches away from his nose. Are you okay? There are hands on his shoulders, pushing him upright and setting him back on his feet where he belongs. It's a girl with bright eyes and an even brighter smile, and Izuku stares at her without meaning to. It's my quirk, the girl says cheerfully, tapping her fingertips together, and it's a miracle that Izuku's ghost actually stays in his body because holy crap there's a girl. I'm sorry for using it without asking. But it would be bad luck if you fell, right? Well, I have to go inside. Good luck. She runs off, and a second or two later, once he's sure he can keep his ghost in his body where it belongs, he runs in after her. Roughly 30 minutes later finds the applying students split into several groups, each group set at a particular training city on campus. This place is massive, Izuku thinks, staring up at the structure's walls. Behind it lies a mock city, though it's so enormous it may as well be a real one. And this is only one of the training sections? He supposes it only makes sense. UA High is the most prestigious hero academy in Japan, after all. Of course it's overkill. Kaken isn't in this group with him. However, the nice girl from earlier is, along with someone else Izuku accidentally upset by mumbling excessively under his breath while Present Mike was explaining the exercise a short while ago. Izuku glances over his shoulder. The boy he upset earlier is there, arms crossed. He straightens his glasses, looking much too serious for such an occasion. The exam starts now. The voice booms overhead Present Mike again, and all heads snap upwards in confusion. There's no time to waste, go. Present Mike's voice thunders. Better hurry up. The clock's tickin'. The confusion is replaced with determination, and when the students charge through the double doors and into the training city, Izuku runs with them. Robots, he calls to mind, turning a corner quickly and branching away from the rest of the students. This exam is determined by a point system depending on how many robots you beat. Wonder. A robot spins around the corner. It has a single, glowing red eye that locks on Izuku immediately. Target acquired, the robot's voice chirps, followed by a series of clicks and whistles. Immediately Izuku dissociates. His body hits the ground beneath him and he charges at the robot. He phases through the metal shell. An uncomfortable, indescribable feeling comes over him for a second, and he shivers. He's never liked phasing through things, but this is a special occasion. He's inside the robot, wires and crossbeams everywhere, and Izuku doesn't waste any time. The robot is locked on his physical body. He has to hurry. He concentrates on his hands, just his hands, nothing more, and then he reaches out and grabs 2 handfuls of wires, blues and reds and yellows. He gets a firm grip on them and yanks. The wires tear free, and Izuku releases them and zips out of the robot's body, hovering in the air above it. The robot creaks and groans and stumbles, and then the flashing light of its mechanical eye flickers and goes out. Izuku cheers, zooming back into his body. His stomach twists, and he has a new bruise on his head, but he ignores that, gets to his feet, and keeps running. He does the same thing to the next robot he sees, and then to the next one after that. He doesn't keep count. Numbers would just slow him down at this point. Besides, he'll find out either way on the test results if he's accepted. No, when I'm accepted, he corrects himself, grabbing fistfuls of wires and yanking them, successfully maiming the robot. I'm going to get in. I'm going to get in. I have to get in. He takes off running, on the lookout for more robots. He doesn't know how many he's taken down yet, and it doesn't matter. He keeps running, down twisting roads and sidewalks. He's puked a total of 3 times since he began dismantling the robots from the inside, and acid leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. It only makes sense, considering how mentally taxing it is to interact with the physical world as a spirit, but he ignores it and moves on. I have to get in, I have to get in, I have to get in. He stumbles into a clearing and skids to a halt. A ton of other students are here, taking down robots how they see fit. The girl from earlier taps robots, sends them into the air, then smashes them into the ground with a mere touch of her fingertips. The boy from earlier runs and slams into robots' feet first. He has some kind of speed quirk, then Time's almost up. A voice overhead booms. Make this count, everybody. Izuku turns down another alleyway and runs. He doesn't see any robots here yet, but he keeps looking anyway. It's odd that there haven't been any zero-pointers yet, Izuku thinks as his shoes slam into the ground, one after the other. You'd think that by now, so far into the exam. The ground lurches beneath him, and Izuku is thrown off his feet, scraping his palms on the concrete as he catches himself. He flips over onto his back and stares up at the sky. The ground trembles again, even more violently this time, and Izuku lets out a long, heaving sigh. Welp, I just jinxed it, didn't I? He thinks dryly, and he scrambles to his feet and takes off running in the direction from whence he came. He sprints back into the clearing. Around him, students charge down the street in the opposite direction, screaming and yelling in terror. Izuku's head snaps up and he looks at the object of their terror, not really knowing what to expect. And there's the zero-pointer, towering at a height well over the city's highest skyscrapers, metal eyes beady and laser-focused. Izuku's heart begins to pound, and his eyes go wide with shock and horror. Wait, that's the zero-pointer? Izuku thinks, his mind drawn on a blank. But isn't that a little overkill? And then he remembers that this is a literal overkill incarnate. There's no point in taking it out literally, Izuku thinks, ready to turn and run off for a few reasons actually. 1, being he needs more points, and 2, being he really doesn't want to get squashed by that thing. And even if there's no way I can pull out wires to bring it down like I did with the smaller ones. Those wires must be massive. He's about to turn when he catches something out of the corner of his eye. The nice girl from earlier, just a little ways in front of the zero-pointer, pinned down by the legs with large chunks of cement. Izuku's mind goes blank. The screams and shouts of fellow heroes fade out until he can't hear anything at all. It'd be bad luck if you fell, right? Izuku doesn't think about it. He runs towards the robot and fires up One for All for the very first time. One for All does not make a good first impression, and Izuku is sent home after breaking both legs and one arm, the arm from when he'd punched, and the legs from when he'd leapt into the air to deliver said punch. The school's nurse had fixed him up while he was unconscious, taking special care with his legs, then sent him home with a sling and a promise that his broken arm would be healed within the next couple of days. That's good, Izuku supposes. He doesn't know how many robots he took out minus the zero-pointer, and he only hopes the amount is enough to get him into UA. He spends the next day feverish in bed, maintaining a semi-physical connection with the world while a ghost always spelled ill will for his actual body, and usually he can push through it after throwing up once or twice. However, coupled with the exhaustion of Recovery Girl's quirk on his broken bones, he's bedridden for a full 24 hours. So that this new power of yours, Mom starts, simply but worriedly, changing out the rag on his forehead. He's in bed and she's sitting beside him. She's not as worried now as she used to be whenever this happened. It's happened often enough in the past for her to take it all in stride now. It breaks your bones. Well, right now it does, Izuku croaks. His throat feels like sandpaper. But I'll let him, he frowns, not really sure what train of thought he'd been on. I'll talk to All Might about it. Mom hums. You do that, she says. The last thing you need is another self-destructive quirk. That's fair. Believe me, it's not fun for me either, Izuku says, and he sighs. Thanks for, not freaking out about all this. She sighs. I try not to, but you really do worry me sometimes. I know. I'm sorry. She sighs again, but this time, she shakes her head. Just try to be careful, she says. I know being a hero isn't exactly the safest line of work out there, but stay safe, okay? He nods. I will. I promise. Good. She brushes his hair out of his face and kisses his temple. Sleep well. Good night. Love you. I love you too, Izuku. She shuts off the light and leaves the room, pulling the door shut behind her. Toshinori is kicking himself in the butt. He should have warned the kid about the physical backlash of using One for All. Sure, the kid trained for 10 months and was definitely a suitable vessel, but IT wasn't ideal. 10 months was just barely enough for his body to be able to HR and assess the quirk without literally exploding. It's going to take a long time before Izuku can use it without injuring himself. So, Toshinori should have warned the kid, and he feels incredibly guilty for not doing so. He stands on the shores of Dagoba Beach, the horizon clear and the moonlight reflecting off the ocean waves. He hasn't heard from the kid for the past couple of days, and a part of him is worried. Actually all of him is worried. After a lot of mental debate, he pulls out his phone and finds Izuku's number. They've been contacting each other for the past 10 months. It's the most convenient way to plan training days. Toshinori's thumbs swipe across the screen. Toshinori. Haven't heard from you in a while. How are you doing? He doesn't really expect a response, so he's surprised when his phone buzzes exactly 10 seconds later. Izuku Midoriya. Low-key dying but okay. Toshinori. Well, I'm officially worried. You alright? Izuku Midoriya. I'm sick. Something about overusing my quirk. It gets always been really confusing. Oh, and my arm's still broken, so there's that. Toshinori. I'm sorry. I should have warned you about that. Izuku Midoriya. It's fine. I did kind of drop dead in front of you. As a first impression, so we're even. Anyway, do you need something? Toshinori. I was going to ask if you could meet me at Dagoba. But since you're sick, it'll have to wait until another day. Izuku Midoriya. Yeah, you're probably right. It's okay though. I'll be with you in spirit. Toshinori takes it in the metaphorical sense, of course, and is shocked when Izuku as a ghost actually shows up. You meant that literally, Toshinori says flatly. He doesn't know why he even bothers being surprised by this kid anymore. He can't see the boy, but he can feel Izuku's grin. Never let it be said I turned down the opportunity for a good joke. The letter comes late at night, roughly a week later, after Izuku is completely recovered. The envelope has UA High written in golden font on the front, and Izuku knows in a heartbeat that it's his results from the entrance exam. He's in his room now, and it'd be completely dark if it weren't for his desk lamp. In front of him on the desk's surface lies the envelope, still sealed, and for a while, he does nothing but stare at it. I know I did well, he thinks, taking up the envelope and examining it with great care. The golden letters catch the light of the desk lamp, like they're winking at him. I know I took down a lot of robots as a ghost, but that I wasn't keeping count, so it could be anything. Eventually, he can't take the suspense any longer, and he tears the envelope open. There's a written letter and a small, disc-shaped object about an inch thick. The moment it hits the table, there's a small clicking sound, and then a projection lights up over it. Young Midoriya. I am here as a projection. Izuku shrieks and throws himself backwards, falling out of the desk chair and landing in a heap on the floor. He winces briefly, makes sure his spirit is attached to its body where it belongs, then bounces back to his feet and stares at the projection. It's All Might, and of course it is no one else has a voice quite as booming and enthusiastic as him. But that's almost more confusing. Now, I know what you're thinking. All Might goes on animatedly. What am I doing at UA, you ask? Well, the answer to that is quite simple. I was offered a job by the principal, and of course I accepted. Starting this upcoming school year, I'll have the privilege of working as a teacher to raise up the next generation of heroes. Beside himself, Izuku beams. Considering how horrible a handle he currently has on One for All, it'd be unfortunate if All Might wasn't teaching at UA. But this isn't about that right now. All Might continues. This is about your test results, young Midoriya, and whether or not you pass the entrance exam. Izuku's smile fades, and he clutches the edge of his desk. Please be enough, please be enough, please be enough. You passed the written exam, All Might says, but I'm sure you've already figured that just through self-scoring. He's right. As for the physical exam, young Midoriya. Izuku bites his lip. Please be enough, please be enough, please be enough. The numbers flash on screen. Rescue points, 60. Combat points, 79. Izuku's eyes go wide. What? He knew he'd taken out a lot of robots. The physical backlash it had had on his body was enough to tell him that much, but 79? Sure, each robot was worth a certain amount of points that added up to his total, but still. To reach that high a number, he took out that many? You did well, Midoriya. All Might says, flashing him a thumbs up. Also, for the record, I wasn't one of the teachers who graded you, so there was no favoritism involved. You know what that means, Midoriya? All Might's smile grows, if that's even possible. You did this on your own, my boy. This is because of your own efforts and hard work. Izuku can't believe this is happening. All his life, this has been his dream, his goal, the thing he's wanted more than anything else in the world. And now, come along, young Midoriya. All Might's projection goes on, and he holds out a hand dramatically. This is your hero academia. Tears roll down his face, and Izuku nods feverishly, rubbing his eyes with the backs of his hands. The projection cuts shortly thereafter, and Izuku stands there, staring at the wall. 3 seconds pass. Yes, he shrieks, leaping into the air and fist-bumping nothing. I did it. I did it. Who? Izuku? There's frantic banging on his bedroom door. Are you all right? What happened? Izuku laughs giddily, then rushes to open the door. He swings it open and stands there, panting but beaming at his mother. The look on his face must be enough confirmation, because her eyes widen, and this huge smile breaks over her face. Izuku, she cries, and she throws her arms around him, and he hugs her back excitedly, still laughing and beaming and completely beside himself. He's done it. This coming school year, he'll be an official student of UA High. That same night, Toshinori receives a text from the kid. Izuku Midoriya. Toshinori. I take it the letter arrived, then. Smiley face. Izuku Midoriya. W is to be the sti. Toshinori. That's a yes? Izuku Midoriya. Toshinori. Alright, definitely a yes. Congrats, kiddo. Izuku Midoriya. Laughing face, laughing face, laughing face, laughing face, laughing face. Toshinori. Anyway, how are you? Izuku Midoriya. I'm screaming. Toshinori. Yep, I bet. I'm proud of you. Smiley face. Izuku Midoriya. Yes. Toshinori. Sorry to change the subject. But can you meet me at Dagoba? Izuku Midoriya. On my way. Laughing face, laughing face, laughing face. Toshinori slips his phone into his pocket and raises his head towards the clear horizon. There's a couple sitting at the edge of the dock, and dock that had only recently been put there. Having Izuku clear the beach as part of his training had been mainly because it was a convenient way for Izuku to build muscle, but also, thanks to that, the citizens can now enjoy the beach, and that's an added bonus. Toshinori takes in a breath. He remembers recording Izuku's acceptance letter at UA, and earlier than that, hearing word from the principal that the boy had been accepted with an outstanding performance at the exam. 60 rescue points and 79 combat points. Toshinori can't help the pride he feels hearing those numbers. His protege is truly an incredible kid. Whatcha doin'? Toshinori answers without thinking. Oh, nothing much, just lost and then he thinks about it. He whirls around with an indistinguishable shout of something. Izuku lets out a small shriek, startled by Toshinori's reaction. His eyes are bright and owlish, like always, and Toshinori finds himself wondering how on earth he hadn't noticed Izuku standing next to him until now. Midoriya? Toshinori breathes. What how? I'm sorry. Izuku says quickly, waving his hands back and, I didn't mean to freak you out again. How long have you been there? Toshinori gasps, willing his heart to return to normal tempo. 2 minutes and maybe? 2 minutes? I'm sorry, I'll let you know I'm here next time. The boy stops, looking away and twiddling his thumbs. You looked like you were thinking about something, so that I didn't want to interrupt. Toshinori inhales deeply, finally getting over most of the shock. He really should stop being surprised by this boy. Well, Toshinori holds out a hand. Izuku blinks at him, and it's only now that Toshinori realizes the boy's eyes glow softly in the darkness. Like glow sticks that've been cracked for a few hours. Congrats on getting accepted into UA, kid. This cheers Izuku up immediately, and he beams, accepting Toshinori's high five with more enthusiasm than he probably meant to use. Thanks, he says, and Toshinori shakes out his hand to get rid of the sting. After that, they discuss one for all. Izuku tells him what it was like using the quirk for the first time. He compares it to a microwave. Good lord, this child. And Toshinori explains that, yes, for now, whenever Izuku uses one for all, chances are he'll break his bones. But, Toshinori adds, when Izuku's shoulders slump in disappointment, the more you train your body, the better vessel you will become. Don't be discouraged, my boy. You'll be able to use this power without harming yourself before you even know it. Izuku perks up again at that, and he beams. Kaken isn't happy. And, of course, he usually isn't when it comes to Izuku's success in life, but Kaken slams him against the wall of an alley by Izuku's school. Izuku's sharp cry of shock is muffled by his own sharp inhale as the back of his head hits the wall and hands pin him there by his shoulders. I told you not to go to you, Kaken snarls in his face. You remember me telling you that, don't you? Don't you, Deku? Izuku swallows thicky. I remember, he says. His knees are shaking. Every bone in his body, or rather, his spirit longing to be free, screams run, 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 and Izuku feels a familiar tug at his chest, whether or not he's allowing it. You want to run again, is that it? Kaken's voice brings him back into reality, and Izuku stares at him with wide eyes. You just want to keep running instead of facing me head-on, Kaken continues, eyes narrowed. You've always been like that, though. You've always been a coward. You and that coward's quirk. He's so close, and Izuku's shoulders, where Kaken is holding him, are burning. It stings. It hurts. Not nearly as much as Kaken's words, but even so. Kaken slams him up against the wall again, harder this time, and Izuku chokes, trying not to cry. Answer me, Deku. Izuku says nothing. Kaken grits his teeth and throws himself back, his hands dropping from Izuku's shoulders, and Izuku seeks in a sharp, shaky breath, finally able to breathe again. Some of the tension in his chest eases. He doesn't feel the suffocating urge to flee anymore. If you know what's best for you, Kaken growls, you'll tell Yue you won't be attending. What makes you think they'll want you in the school with that freaky quirk, anyway? After all, you're not human. Izuku rubs his shoulder, and Kaken's next words hit him like a sack of bricks. You're a monster. He leaves Izuku behind, and as soon as he's gone, Izuku slides to the ground and cries. Honestly, Izuku can take a lot. A whole lot. He can take punches and burns and insults. But not that. Never that. No matter what happens, those words will always feel like icy daggers in his heart. Izuku doesn't tell his mother about Kaken cornering him this time, but he decides that if Kaken does it again, he will. Kaken doesn't do it again. Izuku has already dissociated thrice since waking up, and he hasn't even left the house yet. Izuku, you really need to stop that, Mom says, putting her head in her hands. I know you're nervous, but could you please? Nervous seems like an understatement. Izuku is terrified. It's the first day of the school year, his first day as an official student of UA High, and he's more scared than he's ever been before in his life. I know, sorry, Izuku says, running his fingers through his hair. His hands are shaking. It's just today's the day and I've been waiting for this for so long and I'm so nervous and I don't know what's. His mother's fingers curl around his wrist, not tight enough to hurt, but tight enough to keep him grounded in reality. When he looks at her, her eyes bare into his. Izuku, calm down. Okay. Izuku's voice is a hoarse squeak, and he's not actually sure his mother can understand him. She lets him go, and he grabs his backpack off a dining chair and swings it over his shoulder. I'm heading out now, Mom, bye. Izuku, wait. He looks at her over his shoulder, hand outstretched towards the doorknob. I'm kind of in a hurry. I'm proud of you, Izuku. Izuku blinks, and Mom pauses, glancing down at the floor for a few moments. When she raises her head again, she's smiling, although shakily. I know I'm overprotective of you sometimes, she says, but I'm really, truly proud of you. Even after everything, after Katsuki, she stops, then shakes her head. You haven't given up, and I think that's brave of you. You're going to be an amazing hero. Izuku blinks again, but then he smiles. Thanks, Mom. She hugs him shortly, and then he heads off for the train station. Finding classroom 1A once he's in the building is easy enough. The classroom has a huge, towering door at least 3 times his height, with a red A painted from top to bottom. It's nearly impossible to miss. However, finding the courage to actually open said door is an entirely different matter. Izuku takes in a breath. Don't be nervous. It's fine. You trained for this. It's going to be all right. He reaches out and grasps the handle. An image of Kaken and the boy with glasses he'd upset at the entrance exam pop into his mind's eye, and he swallows thickly. Please don't be any of the scary people. Please don't be any of the scary people. Please don't be any of the scary people. He opens the door. Wrong to put your feet on the desk, the kid with the glasses is yelling, slicing the air with his hands as though for emphasis. Don't you think it's disrespectful of our senpais and the people who made the desk? Kaken smirks at him. He makes no move to take his feet off the desk. Izuku watches the scene, and a small part of him dies on the inside. Guess I'll die, then he thinks, but he doesn't. Collapsing in front of these people won't solve anything. Maybe if I slide past them they'll just ignore me. That's something he's always been good at, being ignored. Whether or not he means to be, sometimes. He's been told by a fair amount of people that he has no presence whatsoever. Maybe it's a side effect of his quirk. He's never known. He moves across the room. The rest of who he assumes are his new classmates don't give him so much as a second glance, chatting and talking with one another, introducing themselves, the likes. It's a good thing. Izuku almost makes it to the back of the room without incident. And then, an elbow slams into the back of his head, and he stumbles forward with a pained yelp. Oh crap! A hand reaches out, grabbing his forearm and holding him steady. Izuku turns, absent-mindedly rubbing the new bruise on the back of his head. I'm so sorry, dude, says the offender. He has bright red, spiky hair, and he looks caught somewhere between concern and embarrassment. I didn't know you were there, I'm sorry. You okay? Izuku nods immediately. I'm fine, he says, and he laughs shakily. Sorry, it's my fault. I should have been more careful. I've been told I don't have any presence, so, it's more my fault than yours. The kid sighs. Still though, he says, I'm sorry. Not the kind of first impression I wanted to make. Anyway, I'm Kirishima. At this, he jabs both thumbs at his chest proudly. I hope we can still be friends, even though I smacked ya. That's fine. Izuku says, the word friends lingering in the forefront of his mind for an extra moment. It's a term he isn't quite familiar with. And my name is Midoriya. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Wait. Kirishima stops, and his eyes go wide. You're Midoriya? Izuku takes a step backwards. That's weird, he thinks. Does he know who I am? I've never seen him before. Izuku gives a nervous smile, hoping it doesn't look as forced as it feels. Yes? Dude. Kirishima starts forward, grinning even wider than before, which just confuses Izuku all over again. You're the guy who came first in the entrance exam. Izuku's train of thought derails. I'm the what now? Man, sorry, I'm just really surprised. Kirishima goes on animatedly, smacking himself on the forehead. I wasn't expecting it to be someone like you. And not that, it's a bad thing, I just wasn't expecting someone with such little presence to be so freaking tough. There's something here. Something Izuku isn't getting. You say what? Oh, you're here. The conversation stops, and Kirishima and Izuku turn. The nice girl from earlier bounces up to them, a cheerful smile on her face. You got in, the girl says to Izuku, and her smile is so bright it almost hurts his eyes. That's great. You were so awesome when you blew that robot away. It was like, she swings her fist through the air, Kirishima ducks beneath it. Boom and pow. It was so cool. Heat rises to Izuku's cheeks, and he laughs shakily. Thanks for breaking the fall for me, he says. Hitting the pavement like that probably would have left a couple scratches. If by a couple scratches, you mean death, a part of him chirps. He ignores it. The girl shakes her head. It's the least I can do after you saved me, she answers, like it's obvious, and Izuku's blushing and fidgeting again. Anyway, I'm Uraraka Ochako. It's nice to meet you. You're all too noisy. Stop wasting time and sit down. Izuku the girl and Kirishima turn. Izuku's first impression of Aizawa Shoyuta is not a good one. Their homeroom teacher seems cold. And maybe that's exactly what he is. That's what he seems, anyway, just from watching him and listening to him. For the life of him, Izuku has no idea what to expect. He certainly doesn't expect being shunted outside with his new classmates for a quirk assessment test on the very first day of school. There's no welcome ceremony, no introduction to the kinds of things they'll be doing during the school year. All they get is a "follow me" from Aizawa, and then they're marching down the hall, all 20 of them, not really walking in any specific kind of order. Izuku can't help but feel nervous, almost nervous enough to zip right back out of his body and go hide somewhere. Kirishima and the nice girl, Uraraka, are further up ahead, and he takes up the rear to avoid awkwardness and people bumping into him, due to the whole lack of presence thing and whatnot. He follows everyone outside. It's a quirk apprehension test, apparently, which is just brilliant. Izuku has one quirk that literally explodes his bones and another quirk that drops him dead. Hoop-de-doo, Izuku thinks. This is how it ends, isn't it? Aizawa gives Kaken a baseball and has him stand in the center of a circle spray painted onto the dirt. A ball throw. Simple enough, Izuku thinks. Surely there's something he can do. With a loud shriek of "die!" Kaken hurls the ball into the air, sending explosions behind it. The ball soars, soars, soars and then disappears. Izuku's heart drops to his stomach. Also, I didn't mention this before, Aizawa says, turning towards the group again, but whoever comes last in this quirk apprehension test will be expelled due to lack of potential. Izuku's muscles go rigid. Dissociation is a pretty useless quirk when it comes to apprehension tests. It doesn't grant Izuku superhuman strength, nor does it boost his body in any way. He can only glide as a ghost as fast as he can run as a human, and the same applies for his strength, when he interacts with the physical world, that is. The only thing Izuku thinks he stands a chance at is the ball throw. If he drops his body and focuses his hands, he can carry the ball as far as he pleases. Sure, it's not how he wants to introduce his quirk to his classmates after all. He'd really like to break his habit of dropping dead in front of people as a first impression, but he needs to get a good score. He can't afford to come in last and get expelled. Aizawa hands him the ball, and he moves to stand in the circle. Everyone else has already gone, and most of them have impressive results. Izuku stands there for a long moment, then takes a deep breath, a familiar tug at his chest. He shuts his eyes for a moment, breathes, then, what the heck kind of quirk is that? It's scary. Izuku's eyes snap open, his spirit grounding itself in his body a second before leaving. He glances over his shoulder, Uraraka waves cheerily at him, and Kirishima gives him an encouraging thumbs up. Is he even human? That's a really weird quirk. Creepy. You're creepy. He always sneaks up on me. I can never tell when he's there. That's pretty scary. I don't like it. Anytime now, Midoriya, Aizawa deadpants, and Izuku's head whips around towards him. We don't have all day. Sorry, Izuku says, straightening up again. His shoulders are tense, and his spirit has no plans to leave his body. He looks down at the ball, then raises his head towards the air. One for all surges through his skin, hot like fire, and he pulls back his arm. That I just won't use it, then. Toshinori knows something is wrong the moment Izuku hesitates. He's been watching the quirk apprehension test from the sidelines ever since the beginning, so far unseen and unheard. This year's batch of heroes looks especially promising with a few small exceptions. For the most part, they all show to have a good handle on their quirks and know how to utilize them to their full potential. And then there's the ball throw. And then there's Izuku. Up until now, Izuku hasn't been able to use dissociation to help whatsoever in the test, which makes sense. But now, with the ball throw, Izuku has a chance. He can show everyone what he can do. Sure, Toshinori hates watching the kid drop like a marionette with its strings suddenly cut, and he wishes someone would catch him, but he doesn't intervene. This is the boy's moment. He watches Izuku step into the circle. Watches the boy close his eyes for a moment in concentration. But he doesn't do it. Izuku's eyes snap open suddenly, like he's been hurt, and he looks around. A few of his classmates wave at him and smile, but he doesn't. And then he uses one for all. Granted, Aizawa stops him at first and tells him that if all he can do is break himself, then he may as well stop while he's ahead, and Izuku, of course, proves him wrong, pouring one for all into his fingertip and firing off the ball that way. He looks way too proud of himself, and he grins at Aizawa through the pain of his broken finger. Aizawa actually seems impressed, which is definitely a rarity for him. But something is wrong. Toshinori has known Izuku for almost a full year now, and he knows something is wrong. He makes a mental note to approach the boy as soon as he can find a moment alone with him. For whatever reason, Izuku doesn't seem ready to share his quirk with his classmates just yet. A logical ruse. Of course. A freaking course. It didn't make sense that UA would expel students on the first day, anyway. When Izuku lands last in the quirk apprehension test, like he knew he would from the get-go, all he gets from Aizawa is a grin and "it was a logical ruse to deceive you into doing your best." Most of the students take it well. There's some shock at the betrayal at first, sure, but then it's just relief. However, the boy with glasses Izuku now knows his name is Ida does not take it nearly as well. A logical ruse, Ida says absent-mindedly as they leave the school building, ready to head home. I can't say I agree with that mindset. Our trust in him is bound to waver if he keeps this up. Hey, you two. Wait for me. Izuku and Ida turn, stop. Uraraka sprints towards them, beaming brightly. Ah, Infinity Girl, Ida greets once she catches up. You did wonderfully at the ball throw. Your name is Uraraka, correct? The girl nods eagerly. And you're Ida, she says, pointing to him, and her finger moves to Izuku, Deku. Izuku blanches. No, not actually. Huh. Uraraka blinks in confusion. But the loud, angry boy from earlier he called you Deku, didn't he? It's just, Izuku shifts his weight. It's an insult. He calls me that to make fun of me. My real name is Midoriya Izuku. Oh, I'm so sorry. Uraraka waves her hands back and forth, looking appalled. I shouldn't have assumed like that, that was wrong. But, actually, Uraraka pauses for a moment or two, and then she beams. I actually kind of like Deku. Izuku blinks. So does Ida. What? They say in unison. I like Deku. Uraraka goes on, smiling. It gives off the feeling of, this is impossible, but I'm going to do it anyway. It'd be a great hero name, don't you think? Plus, I think it's kind of cute. Deku it is, then. Izuku squeaks. His voice is an octave higher than what should be possible for a 15-year-old. Midoriya? Ida whirls around, looking a mixture of shocked, confused, and horrified. Weren't you just saying that it's an insult? Why would you? Sorry, today's been crazy, Izuku says, burying his face in his hands. I'm not in my right frame of mind. Why you can. Call me Deku if you want, though, Uraraka-san. Thanks. Uraraka says, looking much too excited. It'll be your nickname, then. Deku. Ida has a few more complaints regarding it, but in the end he trails off and lets it be, once he's sure Izuku doesn't have a problem with it. It's nice, Izuku thinks, to have a positive meaning attached to the once insult. Maybe Deku can be the name of a hero after all. All Might, I'd like to talk with you about something. It's about your quirk. Not one for all, the other one. Do you have a second? Izuku does not want to talk about dissociate. Does not want to think about dissociate. Sometimes he's fine talking about it. Sometimes he enjoys talking about it. He actually has a journal specifically set aside for analyzing and documenting his quirk, assessing what it can and can't do. But right now, he doesn't want to talk about it. Or think about it. He sends a message. Izuku Midoriya. Could we talk later? Now's not the best time for me. It's not a lie. Now isn't a good time. All Might's response comes a few seconds later, and Izuku feels almost bad about turning him down. All Might. All right, kiddo. See you tomorrow. And then, a second later. All Might. Also, I'm always available if you need someone to talk to. If that doesn't give Izuku one hell of a guilt trip, nothing will, and he falls asleep feeling like his chest is full of lead. The next time he sees All Might is during hero basic training at school the next day. The hero is his usual self, of course, as the students line up inside one of the training cities and prepare for the lesson. All Might gives Izuku a lingering glance, concerned Izuku thinks, but that's it. The students are wearing their hero costumes for the first time. Izuku's was made for him by his mother, with only a few exceptions. He'd asked the support group for something protective for his skull, and they ended up making him a biker helmet-like thing, designed to match the teal of his jumpsuit. The helmet isn't bulky at all. Considering what it is, it's extremely lightweight. If ever he needs to drop on short notice in a dangerous situation, it'll keep concussions off the list of injuries he can get. Today's training seems fairly simple. 2 teams made up of 2 people each will be decided at random. The villain team has to guard a papier-mâché nuclear weapon inside a multi-floor labyrinth of a building, and the hero team has to infiltrate the building successfully, find the weapon, and either immobilize the villains with capture tape or secure the weapon. Seems simple enough, Izuku thinks, as All Might reaches into 2 separate boxes for the drawing. One box is labeled Heroes, and the other box is labeled Villains. As long as I don't get paired with Kaken, I'll be fine. Besides, the chances of me getting paired with him are pretty slim. And we have our teams. All Might says. The hero team, Midoriya and Uraraka, versus the villain team, Ida and Bakugo. Are you freaking kidding me? Izuku glances at Kaken out of the corner of his eye. Kaken is glaring in a way that can only be described as murderous, and Izuku looks away again quickly. Of course he's paired with Kaken. Of course he is. With his luck, why wouldn't he be paired with Kaken? Deku, we're on the same team. Uraraka says, bouncing up to him. Let's do our best, okay? Izuku smiles just a little at that. At least she's on his team. Heroes, you have 15 minutes to study the floor plan, All Might says, and villains, you have 15 minutes to hide your weapon. As for the rest of you, please join me in the viewing room. We will be watching from the sidelines. Good luck, Midoriya. Kirishima says, grinning and waving, and Izuku raises a hand and waves back. Izuku is smiling on the outside, sure, but internally he's screaming. Izuku and Uraraka infiltrate the building through the window as soon as their 15 minutes are up. We're in, Uraraka whispers, straightening up and looking around. I don't think they heard us come in. Izuku nods, turning and looking down one of the hallways. The structure is like a labyrinth with winding halls and tunnels. He imagines it'd be easy to get lost. He gestures for Uraraka to follow, and they start down the hallway. Do you have any ideas? Izuku asks once they're well on their way. So far so good, no sign of Ida or Kaken. Not yet, Uraraka says. But I imagine they're guarding the weapon. We should find out where that is and overpower them together. I don't think they're guarding it, Izuku says, peering around the corner, then continuing on when he deems it safe. I think Ida's guarding it, and Keisi Bakugo, he'll be out here looking for us. Really? Uraraka asks. There's a pause. You sound really sure about that. I am. There's a 4-way break up ahead. Izuku and Uraraka continue towards it. He's going to come after us, me, a part of him corrects, and leave Ida to defend the we. On cue, Kaken leaps out in front of them from around the corner. There are sparks on his palms. A warm glow encases his hands, and, get down. Izuku leaps and tackles Uraraka to the ground. Kaken's blast misses them by mere inches, shooting down the hall and smashing into the far wall. Kaken's feet hit the ground, and he glares. Don't run away, Deku, he snarls. There's something very different about being called Deku by Kaken now. Before, it'd hurt. Now it just makes Izuku mad. Uraraka, run. Izuku shouts, springing to his feet and putting his fists in front of his face. Find Ida and the weapon, then contact me. Are you sure? Uraraka questions, her voice trembling just a bit. Deku. He looks at her over his shoulder. I'll be fine, go. Looking away is a mistake. Kaken's fist slams into his stomach, and Izuku stumbles backwards with a cry of shock and pain. For a moment or two, he can't breathe. Go, Uraraka. Izuku yells with what breath he has left in his lungs, and this time, Uraraka runs. Her pounding footsteps grow fainter, then fade out entirely. You think you can face me alone? Kaken grins and rushes at him, pulling back his fist for another punch. Don't make me laugh. Izuku's fingers coil around Kaken's wrist. After that, Izuku grits his teeth and lets instincts and training take over. He tightens his hold on Kaken's wrist, swings around, yanks him over his shoulder, and decks him back first into the metal floor below. Kaken's cry of shock is swallowed by his sharp inhale of breath, and Izuku scrambles backwards, putting as much distance as he can between him and his once childhood friend. Kaken gets to his feet slowly, coughing and choking. He looks at Izuku, eyes narrowed, teeth gritted. So you're not running for once, he growls. Izuku stands his ground. I'm not running from you. You don't scare me anymore. He stops, refrains. No, you don't scare me anymore, Bakugo. Kaken no, Bakugo glares at him. Don't try and act tough now, Deku, he snarls, turning to face him fully. We all know how big of a coward you are. You and that coward's quirk. Izuku swallows hard, teeth gritted behind his lips. The words send sharp arrows through his chest, and he raises his fists again. You're wrong, Izuku says. I'm going to be a hero whether you like it or not. Bakugo grins. Is that so? He questions. Then why don't you show your new friends your quirk, huh? Izuku stops suddenly. If I'm wrong like you say I am, Bakugo goes on, then show them your power. Show them what you are. Creepy. Is he even human? That's a weird quirk. Monster. You're a monster. Izuku doesn't wait for Kaken to move first. He charges. 2 more punches to the gut from Bakugo and another judo flip from Izuku later. Izuku is running, tearing down the hall and ignoring the sharp pain of his bruised skin as he does so. He hears Bakugo's voice echoing around him, yelling at him, and Izuku tries to ignore it. Not when Bakugo's words bounce off the walls and slam into him at every angle. You said you weren't scared, didn't you? Then come back and prove it. Stop running, you coward. But Izuku does run. And as he does, all he can think about is how tired he is of running. Something is wrong. Something is horribly, horribly wrong. Tashinori, or rather, All Might, currently watches the screen in the viewing room with the rest of Class 1A. On one screen, Bakugo is storming through the facility, fuming. On another screen, Ida and Uraraka are standing across the room from each other, the papier-mâché nuclear weapon behind Ida. And on the final screen, Izuku is running through winding hallways and long corridors. Uraraka? Where are you? Izuku asks. All Might can hear their conversation through his own earpiece. Izuku's voice is low and breathless. It almost doesn't sound like him. Did you find the weapon? Yeah, I did, Uraraka answers on screen. Ida takes a step towards her, cackling madly. Perhaps he's taking his role as a villain a bit too seriously. I found Ida too. He knows I'm here. On screen, Izuku nods, stumbles on unsteady feet, then keeps running. He's favoring his right leg. Where are you? Izuku questions. 4 stories up from where we came in, comes Uraraka's answer. There's a small room at the edge of the building on the 6th story, that's where we are. You're still on the 2nd floor, aren't you? Izuku nods again. Yeah, I am. His voice sounds tight, too tight, and it's not because he's running. It sounds like he's been crying. Hold on, I've got a plan. Stay where you are, alright? Don't let Ida put the capture tape on you. Got it, says Uraraka. The conversation ends, and the two continue their own separate ways. Something is wrong. Izuku isn't acting like himself. All Might knows this kid, spent every day for almost a year training with this kid. Izuku is stubborn to a fault, doesn't care about his physical body, analyzes situations before diving into them, and has an excellent sense of his surroundings. There are smaller things, too, like his lack of presence, his glowing eyes, not to mention his quirk that All Might will never fully understand, but personality-wise, All Might knows the ins and outs of this boy. And right now, he isn't acting like himself. All Might knows that Bakugo's words alone wouldn't be enough to drive Izuku into a corner, wouldn't be enough to drive him to attack Bakugo like he had, then turn tail and flee as soon as he got the chance. There's a deeper problem here, a much, much deeper problem. And All Might, for the life of him, has no idea what that problem is. He watches with the rest of the students. Everyone's giving their own commentary. Some of them are really invested in the Uraraka versus Ida situation, but most of them, like All Might, are more concerned with the Izuku versus Bakugo situation. Man, that Bakugo dude's insane, Kaminari says, shaking his head. Did ya see his smile? That was pretty scary. I kinda don't want him and Midoriya to run into each other again, says Ishido, but on the other hand, I kind of want to see what happens if they do. And then, as if on cue, Izuku's and Bakugo's screens merge to form one big picture. They found each other yet again. Oh boy. Kirishima grinds his teeth for a moment. Usually I wouldn't say this, but with Bakugo smiling like freaking book it, Midoriya. On screen, Izuku tenses. Across from him, Bakugo grins. Found ya, Bakugo says, striding towards Izuku slowly, and Izuku takes a step backwards. All Might can't read the look on his face. You know, I was expecting you to last longer, you know? Before you ran off. He walks towards Izuku. Izuku steps back once, then twice. His hands are shaking. But I guess I shouldn't have expected that, right? Bakugo grins. Behind All Might, a couple students grimace and wince. They can't hear the audio, but that smile on Bakugo's face spells disaster in bright, bold print. You're a coward in the end, Bakugo says, and this time, he stretches out an arm. His gauntlet gleams in the overhead lights. Still just as much of a coward as you were when we were little. Izuku doesn't say anything. By the way, Deku, Bakugo goes on, do you know how my quirk works, don't you? I sweat nitroglycerin, then ignite it to make explosions. Something in All Might's chest clenches. He assumes it's his heart. Bakugo, what are you? Which means, Bakugo goes on, and then that grin is back, wider than ever. That if the idiots in the support course made this the way I asked them to, then these gauntlets are full of it. There's a mic on the desk, and All Might slams on its button. His voice booms over the loudspeakers in the training grounds. Bakugo, I forbid it, he shouts. Do not fire. Are you trying to kill him? It won't kill him if it doesn't hit him. Bakugo shouts back. His fingers close around the pin on the gauntlet, and he yanks it out. Bakugo! All Might's shout is drowned out by Bakugo's blast and Izuku's screams. Izuku knows he broke something. Or, possibly, several somethings. He must have blacked out, because he opens his eyes to find himself out of the hallway, crumpled on the floor surrounded by chunks of cement. He raises his head. His helmet must have been blown off by Bakugo's blast, because his bangs hang freely in front of his eyes. He raises his head. There's a smoking hole in the wall. When the dust settles, Bakugo walks through it, grinning maniacally. That, Bakugo says slowly, taking long, even strides towards Izuku, was way more powerful than I expected. Bakugo! All Might's voice carries over the loudspeakers, and Bakugo raises his head while Izuku staggers to his feet dazedly. The floor seems to swim beneath him, and he shakes his head to knock the dizziness away. It doesn't help. If you use that attack again, the match will end, and your team will lose. All Might goes on, and Izuku's known the man long enough to tell he's angry. All Might continues, scolding Bakugo for his reckless behavior, and Izuku takes the distraction as a moment to breathe. Deku? I heard an explosion. Are you okay? That's Uraraka's voice, sent into his ear through his communicator, and he raises a hand and presses down on the device. Why, I'm fine, he says, the tremble of his voice belying his words. Where did you say you were? Along the far wall of the building, north wing I think, Uraraka chirps back. She sounds worried. Are you hurt? Why you sound like you're in pain? Yes. I'm fine, he says, swallowing back the bile in his throat and studying the room for a moment. Hey, Uraraka, I think I'm right underneath you. Wait, really? Izuku nods. I have a plan, he gasps. There's a sharp pain in his chest. His ribs are probably messed up. It's crazy, but I think we can do it. As soon as the floor explodes, grab the weapon. The floor? She pauses. When her voice comes back, she sounds determined. Got it? Good luck, Deku. The transmission cuts, and Izuku is dragged back into the present by Bakugu's voice. Don't run away this time, Deku, Bakugu says, as though Izuku doesn't have 3 walls on either side of him and the enemy in front of him, and then, Bakugu charges. Izuku can't brace himself for it. There's no time and he has no energy. Pain leaves a fog in his mind. Bakugu grabs his wrist. His fingers burn Izuku's skin, but Izuku's cry of shock is cut short when Bakugu yanks him forward, swings around, pulls him over his shoulder. Izuku is slammed into the floor, back first. He chokes on his spit, the air in his lungs getting forcefully sucked out of him by the force of the hit. Payback from earlier, Bakugu snarls, and his voice seems to come from very far away. Izuku's ears are ringing, and his head feels like it's stuffed with cotton. Bakugu grabs his arm again and swings, and Izuku shuts down. Bakugu has no mercy. He grabs Izuku's arm and swings him around again, slamming him into the floor for a second time. Izuku doesn't fight back, doesn't react. He stopped fighting a little while ago, and All Might doesn't know why, but something is wrong. Something is very wrong if Izuku is shutting down at a time like this. Just put the capture tape on him. Kirishima is yelling, his hands buried in his hair. You don't have to do this, Bakugu, just put the capture tape on. Why isn't he stopping? Why won't he just end it? Midoriya isn't even fighting back anymore. Kaminari shouts at the screen. Just cut it out, Bakugu. Put the capture tape on. Even though you're playing the villain here, that's our classmate. Bakugu, knock it. I can't, this is painful to watch. Sensei, you have to stop this. Hagekure's gloved hands grab his forearm and shake him, just enough to get his attention. You can't let Bakugu. Oh no, why won't he stop? All Might snaps out of his shock. His hands fumble for the microphone. Bakugu! Bakugu slams Izuku into the ground again. Bakugu, stop! An explosion. A scream. Izuku's scream. Bakugu! Bakugu is either ignoring him, can't hear him, or is so into the fight, if you can even call this beatdown a fight, to register what All Might's saying. All Might turns around. This can't go on like this, it can't. At this rate, something really, really horrible is going to happen. And it isn't going to happen to Bakugu. All Might takes 2 steps. The students part like the Red Sea for him. Uraraka, now. That's Izuku's voice. All Might hasn't heard that in a while. He turns back around towards the screen, as do the rest of the students, and they watch. Izuku is still on his back on the floor, and blood trickles down the side of his face, but his fist is retracted at his side. Bakugu tries to grab him again. Golden tendrils envelop Izuku's arm, and he throws the punch. Not at Bakugu. At the ceiling. Bakugu is blasted off his feet, and the surge of wind pressure from Izuku's punch shoots straight through the roof, blasting out floor after floor and all the windows in the process. Izuku and Bakugu's screens are full of smoke and dust. On Ida and Uraraka's screens, the explosion blasts through the floor, and Uraraka springs into action. She touches a broken pillar, then grabs a hold of it when it's weightless. With a heroic grin, she cheers, improvised special move, Comet home run, and proceeds to swing the pillar like a baseball bat, hitting several pieces of broken cement at Ida. Ida raises his arms to shield himself, blocking his view of her, and Uraraka takes her chance, tapping herself so she's weightless and throwing herself into the air. She waits until she's above the weapon, then drops. Her arms circle around it, and while she beams in triumph, Ida wails in despair. The smoke and dust clear on the other screens, and All Might refocuses his attention on those instead. Izuku is unconscious. There's blood beneath his head. Bakugu is standing a little ways off, staring. His balled fists tremble at his sides, but it's different than when Izuku's hands were shaking. Izuku was shaking in fear. Bakugu is shaking in fury. All Might presses the mic button again. His voice rings out through the building, declaring the hero team the winner. Victory has never looked so much like defeat. Toshinori, not All Might, rushes for the infirmary literally the moment the lesson is finished. All Might had put on a brave face as per usual, and finished the lesson with the 16 remaining students. They'd all done well. He'd told them so at the end of their lesson, right before making a break for the elevator. There are a number of reasons why he booked it for the elevator, and if anyone on staff asks why, he'll blame it on his time limit. Honestly, though, it had less to do with that and more to do with Izuku. Toshinori isn't that worried about the boy's physical well-being. Izuku was unconscious earlier, but not gravely injured, and Toshinori knew Recovery Girl could get straight to work and heal his injuries without much trouble. It's Izuku's mental state that Toshinori is worried about, because even though Izuku had thought up a strategy and carried it out in the end, something was definitely wrong. The boy had shut down for a good portion of the lesson, letting Bakugo pummel him into the ground without so much as a word of protest. And that can't mean anything good. Toshinori arrives at the infirmary's door shortly thereafter, though a few hours have passed since Izuku was originally shunted away on a stretcher. He stands there for a moment or two to catch his breath, and then he reaches for the door handle. "You're too reckless for your own good, I swear." "I know, I'm sorry." Toshinori stops in favor of listening, hand hovering over the handle. "It's only the second day of school. And you've already been in here twice. What's it going to take before you learn to think a little?" "I'm sorry. At this rate, you're going to end up seriously hurting yourself, and I won't always be able to heal you. There's a limit to how much my quirk can do, you know that." "I'm sore. What are you going to do when that happens, boy? How can you save people if all you accomplish is breaking your bod?" "I said I'm sorry." Toshinori feels like someone dropped several ice cubes down his back. That there's no way that's Izuku's voice. Except it is. That guttural, desperate voice belongs to Izuku. And it's another reminder that something is very, very wrong here. When Izuku's voice comes back, he doesn't sound angry anymore. Just broken. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell, I just thought it's all right." The bite is gone from Recovery Girl's voice, and she sounds suddenly exhausted. "That was my fault. I shouldn't have shouted like that after what you went through today." Toshinori takes this as his cue, and he pulls the door open. Izuku is sitting on the hospital bed, gaze cast downward. He raises his head for just a second at the sound of the door opening, but as soon as he sees who it is, his head snaps back down towards his hands. One arm is bandaged, the other's in a sling. There's gauze around his head and a piece of cotton taped over his cheek. Recovery Girl hops off her stool and starts towards Toshinori. Look who finally decides to show up, she greets, if you can really call that a greeting. "Well, I'll leave you to it then." She starts to walk past him, and then she says in a low whisper, "Talk to him, Toshi. He's hiding something." Izuku doesn't hear her, he's not meant to, but Toshinori does. The door slides shut behind him, and he's left alone with Izuku. Izuku doesn't look at him. He keeps his head down, fiddling with the edge of the blanket. His clothes are signed and torn in places, and his hair is more disheveled than usual. Toshinori sinks into Recovery Girl's stool by the bed and folds his hands loosely. He waits, for a time, to see if Izuku will say something. He doesn't. "Midoriya, my boy, why didn't you use your quirk?" Izuku flinches. He's never done that before. When he doesn't say anything, or even so much as turn his head, Toshinori continues. "And it's not just now," Toshinori says. Slowly, he's not entirely certain what to do right now, so he approaches with caution. "Yesterday, the ball throwed at you could have used your quirk then too, but you used one for all instead." Izuku doesn't react. "And now, today," Toshinori continues. "You very well could have used your quirk to find the weapon and secure it, but in the end, you used one for all, when you knew it would hurt you." Still no reaction from Izuku. "Midoriya, why would you?" "Because one for all is a hero's quirk." Izuku chokes out. He doesn't exactly shout it, but the proclamation isn't a quiet one either. It's a hero's power. In Dissociation is just. Any quirk can be a hero's quirk, depending on the wielder. Toshinori cuts him off, afraid of what Izuku was about to say. "It's not the power that makes a person, it's the heart behind the power." "Your own quirk, too, Midoriya." "It's a coward's quirk." Izuku does shout this time, and Toshinori flinches back in surprise. Izuku's voice cracks at the end, and tears gleam on his cheeks in the sunlight cast by an open window, but Toshinori can't see Izuku's eyes. It's a coward's quirk and You are a lot of things, Midoriya, but a coward is not one of them. Yes, I am. Izuku finally looks at him, and his eyes are red and wet and full of pain. And anger. And frustration. The scar on his face is more prominent than ever, and Toshinori feels vaguely like he's been stabbed in the gut. All my life, all I've ever done is run. Izuku shrieks. It's all I can do. And he stops, takes in a long, shuddering breath. I'm so tired of running. I don't want to run anymore. Toshinori doesn't say anything else. A stunned silence follows as the echo of Izuku's shout fades from the room. And then, Izuku's eyes fill with tears. And terror. I'm sorry, he stammers desperately. I'm sorry, I didn't mean I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell, I can't. His voice breaks as the sobs begin, and Izuku finally caves, tears leaving wet splotches on the blanket. Toshinori, for the life of him, has no idea what to do. It's not like he hasn't seen the kid cry before actually. Izuku cries more than anyone Toshinori's ever met, but this is different. It's different this time. Toshinori rises to his feet and moves to sit on the edge of the bed beside his student. If Izuku notices, he doesn't react, mostly focused on brushing his tears away. Toshinori hesitates, just for a moment, and then he reaches over, awkwardly, and wraps an arm around the boy's shaking shoulders. Izuku doesn't really react, at least not in the way Toshinori is expecting. Rather than tense or flinch away, the boy leans into the awkward half-hug, and the tears fall faster. I'm sorry, Izuku whispers, and his voice breaks all over again. I'm sorry, I yelled, I'm sorry. It's alright, kiddo. It's fine. Toshinori squeezes his shoulders. I know you didn't mean anything by it, it's okay. You have every right to be upset. I'm frustrated, Izuku chokes, and I'm so tired of just. I know. You don't have to explain yourself, I get it. It's all right. I didn't even fight back. Izuku drags in a short, shuddering breath. I didn't even try. I just let him. Toshinori knows exactly who Izuku is talking about. It's not your fault, Toshinori says. I told Bakugo to stop, and he refused. What he did to you was wrong. Izuku chokes and shakes his head. It was a fight, he sobs. We were supposed to fight each other? Not like that, Toshinori interrupts. Bakugo didn't do that. So he could beat you. He did that because he wanted to hurt you. Regardless of the objective of the lesson, what he did was wrong. He wonders, briefly, how long this has been going on. For how long has Bakugo intentionally tried, and succeeded, to harm Izuku? For how long has it gone unpunished? He shakes his head. Now's not the time for that, he decides. There will be time for that. There will be. For now. You're not a coward, Midoriya, Toshinori says while Izuku sobs, and your power isn't a coward's quirk either. I hope, someday that you'll realize that you can use this power to save people. Izuku inhales sharply. The tears stop for a brief moment, and then they're back with vigor, and Toshinori squeezes Izuku's shoulder for lack of better thing to do. They sit there for a long time. Eventually, though, Izuku pulls away, and Toshinori lets him go. Sorry, Izuku says, rubbing his eyes. Sorry, I think that I'm okay now. Toshinori studies his face for a moment. You sure? Izuku nods. Why, thanks. He gives a nervous, shaky kind of laugh. It kind of is. You know that I keep breaking my arms? Toshinori blinks. That's certainly a sudden change of subject. Maybe it's intentional. Yes, it is unfortunate, he says. But he stops and looks at Izuku's face. Oh dear. He knows that look in Izuku's eyes. He's seen it before. Many times. Kid. I guess you could say. Izuku starts. Kid, no. That there's nothing humorous about it. Midoriya. Izuku snaps a finger gun at him. Aye. Toshinori lets out a long, heaving sigh. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Izuku gives another shaky laugh. It sounds forced. I guess, he says. Sorry, I just wanted a change of subject. That's fair, Toshinori says, and he wonders, briefly, if puns are something of a coping method for Izuku. But that's another conversation for another day. Anyway, kiddo, get some rest. Toshinori reaches out and ruffles Izuku's hair. Izuku blinks at him for a moment. Recovery girl's going to be mad at me again if you don't. Okay, Izuku says, nodding. And he pauses and looks away again. I'm sorry. The kid apologizes too much, Toshinori thinks, and he opens his mouth to say that no, he doesn't have to apologize, that what happened today wasn't his fault, that Bakugo was wrong, not Izuku. But Toshinori gets the feeling that saying that won't actually help the kid. He knows Izuku is smart, knows that he's blaming himself, not because it's rational, but because that's what he does. He shoulders blame like his life depends on it, whether or not it's actually his fault, and Toshinori knows he'll most likely always be like this. So Toshinori doesn't say any of that. Instead, the words that come out of his mouth are, "Hello, sorry. I'm all might." The boy's eyes widen as realization dawns, slowly at first and then all at once, and he stares at Toshinori like he's never seen the man before. Toshinori snaps gun fingers at him. Aye. There's a beat. And then Izuku loses it, clapping his hand to his head and laughing almost hysterically. The tears are still there, but the laughter is honest and pure, and Toshinori finds himself smiling. He knows he's inexperienced as a mentor and that he's still learning what it actually means to guide someone. But at least he can make the kid laugh. Izuku doesn't know for how long he sleeps, only that when he wakes up, the sun is setting outside the infirmary window. Izuku blinks and sits up slowly, wincing momentarily when his ribs shift. He'd bruised them, and Recovery Girl had healed them, but even so, to say he's sore would be an understatement. Recovery Girl already gave him the okay to leave. She let him rest for a while, since her quirk uses a person's stamina to heal injuries, but now he's ready to head home. He wonders if his mother was contacted about what happened earlier. He hopes not. He slides off the bed and onto his feet, wincing again. It's not as bad as it could be, though, and he takes that as a good thing. With a slight heaviness in his chest, he crosses the room, pulls the door open, and steps out into the hallway. Hope he's all right. That was pretty brutal. Yes, indeed. We'll see him tomorrow, though I'm sure of it. I hope he's okay. It was scary. And Ida, Kirishima, and Uraraka walk right past him, talking to each other, not even giving him a glance. Izuku watches them walk. Uraraka's head is down, as is Kirishima's, and Ida looks more serious than usual, if that's possible. Izuku stares, confused, for a long moment. Well, I hope he comes to school tomorrow, Kirishima says. They're talking about me, Izuku thinks. As long as he's not seriously hurt. I'm fine, Izuku says. Kirishima, Ida, and Uraraka let out a short, high-pitched shriek in unison and whirl around to stare at him, the concern chased away by terror. Midoriya? Deku? Izuku winces. Sorry, he says quickly. I didn't mean to scare you guys. He really needs to stop doing that to people. Dude, you're okay though? Kirishima says, grinning. Or, he stops, his smile melting into concern. Or did I think you're okay? Izuku knows how he looks. His eyes are probably still red from crying earlier, and his arm and head are wrapped with gauze. His other arm hangs in a sling. Regardless, though, he smiles, although shakily. I'm fine, he says. Recovery Girl patched me up, so... Unsurprisingly, they don't seem convinced. You weren't seriously hurt, were you, Deku? Uraraka's voice shakes, just a little. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I could have helped you. And no, it's fine, Izuku says at once, holding a hand out to her. It's not your fault I told you to leave. It's because of you the fight ended as soon as it did. Thank you. Uraraka bites her lip, but nods. I'm glad you're okay, Deku. Hold on. Kirishima's eyes widen, just for a second, like he's come to a sudden realization. Midoriya, wait here, he says. Very seriously. I'll be right back. And without another word elsewise, he takes off full speed down the hallway. Don't run. Ida hollers after him, but Kirishima doesn't listen, spinning and disappearing around the corner. Ida sighs, but says nothing else on the matter, rather turning back towards Izuku. I'm glad you're all right, Ida says. However, I'm quite surprised by Bakugu's behavior. I don't see how any aspiring hero could behave like he did. Did he get in trouble? Izuku asks, genuinely curious and a little scared too. Yes. Ida's answer comes the moment Izuku stops speaking. Aizawa-sensei pulled him aside for a long talk. He was sent home for the remainder of the day with a note for his parents, and starting tomorrow, he's on probation. Izuku actually feels a little relief at that, and it makes him kind of sad that he does. How do you feel, Deku? Uraraka asks, wringing her hands together. She's looking at his arm, bandaged and slinged. I'm sore, Izuku answers. And tired, but honestly okay. Yes, that makes sense, Ida says, nodding. We were just getting ready to head home. We assumed you'd already left, but it seems we were wrong. I'm glad you're okay. Uraraka smiles at him, if just a bit. Are you going to come to school tomorrow, or? Recovery girl said I'll be fine by then, Izuku replies. She kickstarted the healing, so my bones should be okay by tomorrow morning. That's good. I'm back. Kirishima's voice echoes down the hall, and Izuku, Ida, and Uraraka turn. Kirishima sprints across the hallway to them, then stops, resting his hands on his knees and gasping for breath. Why are you running? Ida questions immediately. It's dangerous, don't you realize that? Why, yeah, sure, Kirishima gasps, then straightens up. Hey anyway, Midoriya. Don't change the subject. Here, this is for you. He pulls something out of his pocket and hands it to Izuku. Izuku takes it into his hands and stares at it for a long moment. Uraraka and Ida crowd around to take a look. It's a bell. A small, golden bell, attached to a black choker necklace. It's just so we know you're there, Kirishima explains, rubbing the back of his neck. We passed Yaoyorozu a little while ago, and getting scared by you a second ago gave me the idea. I asked if she could make one and… He gestures vaguely at the bell. That's… Uraraka pauses and doesn't continue. Yeah, Kirishima goes on, this time looking at Izuku. No offense, buddy, but you've got absolutely no presence. It's kinda scary, actually. Oh. Izuku looks down at his shoes. Sorry, don't look so dejected, man, it's cool, Kirishima says, knocking him on the shoulder hard enough to make him lose his footing, but not his balance. Everyone's different. Izuku bites his lip, then raises his head. You might even say, he says, we all have our own little quirks. Silence. Ha! Kirishima slaps a hand to his head and cackles. Ida groans and buries his face in his hands, and Uraraka pats him on the shoulder comfortingly. All Might wasn't kidding then. Kirishima whoops. You do like jokes. That's… Kirishima pauses and smiles embarrassedly. The bell thing was supposed to be a joke, kinda. Ida looks up and lets out a long sigh. Kirishima, he says, I know you're trying to help, but don't you think a bell is rather degrading? I like it. Izuku cuts in suddenly, and everyone jumps collectively. Even though it was kind of a joke, I actually really like it. Ida looks absolutely done with him. Are you serious, Midoriya? I mean, practically, it'll keep me from accidentally sneaking up on people, Izuku goes on, and Ida buries his head in his hands for a moment, and also, it's the first time I've been given a gift from a friend. I think it's cool. Izuku says instead. Hey, awesome. Kirishima gives him a thumbs up. It was totally a joke at first, but if you like it, I mean wear it. Izuku nods, and Uraraka helps him put it on, snapping it behind his neck, and Izuku is surprised by how perfectly it fits him. He beams, and after a moment or two, his friends, Ida included, even though the smile seems forced, beam back at him. He walks home with the three of them, and while he does, he thinks of how refreshingly wonderful it is to have friends. Izuku bumps into Bakugu on his way to class the next day. On instinct, he tenses, planting his feet firmly on the ground. Bakugu glares at him, but doesn't say anything for a time. And then, nice bell, he snarks. Izuku swallows hard, but doesn't back down. Not this time. Bakugo is on probation, he won't try anything if he knows what's good for him. And if he does try anything, he'll have to answer to Aizawa. Thanks, Izuku says, absent-mindedly running his thumb along the smooth metal of the bell. I got it from a friend. Bakugo's glare darkens, but he doesn't say anything else. Izuku waits until Bakugo disappears down the hallway before continuing to Class 1A. He takes the empty desk in front of Ida, and almost as soon as he sets his backpack on the floor beside his chair, the door slides open again and in walks Aizawa. There's no good morning, and Izuku doesn't think there ever will be. Aizawa doesn't strike him as much of a morning person. Or, for that matter, an any time of day person. Aizawa stacks a few papers on the desk and sets them aside. Izuku sits, straight-backed, and waits for him to begin. Aizawa raises his head towards the class. Before we get into today's lessons, you'll need to decide on a class representative. Izuku blinks. So do the rest of his classmates. And then, all at once, everyone breaks into rounds of cheers and whoops and yays, and Izuku cups his hands around his ears to block out what noise he can. For once, and possibly only for once, that it's actually a normal school activity. They decide to take votes to nominate their class rep. It was Ida's idea to begin with, and they all wrote their names out on the chalkboard and gathered up the votes. Voting like this is probably the best way to go about it. Most everyone wants to be class rep, so whoever has more than one vote is obviously the most suited for it. The most suited for class representative. Izuku thinks, then smiles. Well, the answer is obvious who I'm going to vote for, and then 3 votes. Izuku has 3 votes. And none of them are his own. For a while, he stares at the tally marks on the chalkboard beside his name. Who the heck? He turns in shock to face the rest of the class. Kirishima is whistling and twirling a finger around a spike of hair absent-mindedly. Uraraka is fiddling with a pencil. Ida straightens his glasses and doesn't meet Izuku's eyes. That oh dagnabbit, you guys. Well, that settles it then, Aizawa says. Midoriya is class president and Yaoyorozu, with 2 votes, is vice president. Izuku takes in a deep, deep breath and tries not to scream. Why you guys shouldn't have voted for me, Izuku says over lunch at the cafeteria. He, Ida, Uraraka and Kirishima are sharing a table. I'm not suited to be a leader. Dude, that ain't for you to decide. Kirishima points his chopsticks at Izuku with a grin. Let your followers determine how good or bad of a leader you are. Believe me, I'm not a leader, Izuku insists, shaking his head. I can't even stand up in front of people without getting jittery. How am I supposed to be the class representative? Oh. Kirishima frowns. Well, you should have thought of that sooner. You know you have to give the opening speech at the annual sports festival, don't you? One of Izuku's chopsticks snap between his fingers. I have to what? You came first in the entrance exam, Midoriya, says Ida simply, though he seems confused. That means you make the opening speech for the first year round at the sports festival. Did you not know that? Izuku knew it, he just never thought about it. That's it, I'm dead, he says, and he has half a mind to slide out of his chair and his body too, actually. I'm dead. This is the end. Kirishima laughs. Izuku stares at him. It's not funny, he says. You're gonna do fine. Uraraka says, beaming at him. It's gonna be great, just give a nice little encouragement to everyone. Izuku looks at her. Do you not understand? How much I don't want to do that? Kirishima laughs harder. You guys, I'm serious, Izuku says, and he hates himself for it, he adds, I'm dead. This is a grave situation. Kirishima actually falls back out of his chair, cackling madly. A couple students from other tables turn to look in confusion, then go right back to what they're doing when they're sure no one's dying. Oh man, Midoriya, you're a crack-up, Kirishima says, dragging himself off the floor and back into his seat. Just say one of your dumb jokes at the opening speech. I'm sure everyone will love ya. Or want to kill me, Izuku says. You can kill someone if they're already dead, Kirishima says, and for a second, Izuku is off-put by the comment. Then he remembers that he declared himself dead a moment ago. Seriously though, Midoriya, don't stress it. You're gonna be fine. Not sure I will, Izuku says, but thank you. That reminds me. Uraraka taps a finger to her chin. Deku, you had 3 votes, right? 1 from me, 1 from Ida, and 1 from Kirishima, right? Izuku nods, as do Ida and Kirishima. So wait. Uraraka blinks at him in curiosity. Who did you vote for, Deku? Oh, I voted for Ida, Izuku answers. I thought, that he just seemed like the right person to me. Ida stares at him and then he raises a hand over his heart. I'm honored you think I'm fit to lead the class, Midoriya, Ida says. However, I voted for you for the exact same reason. You're going to be an excellent class representative. Why, Izuku isn't convinced at all. He stares at his broken chopstick sadly. And maybe Something hits him suddenly, like a wave, and he stops, lurching forward just a bit. That feeling. It's a tug at his chest, not unlike the feeling he gets when his spirits longs to be free, except it feels wrong. Like something is wrong. Midoriya? Ida frowns at him. Midoriya, are you alright? Yeah, Izuku says, shaking his head, just had a funny feeling, for some reason. A loud, whirring siren blares overhead, cutting him off, and he and his friends turn. The alarm? Kirishima breathes. Wait, does that mean? His eyes find Izuku's. What were you saying about a funny feeling? Izuku's eyes are wide. I have no idea. It doesn't matter now. Ida gets to his feet, more serious than ever. We're under attack. Everyone, let's move. Izuku, Kirishima, and Uraraka get to their feet and follow him as he races from the cafeteria. They aren't under attack. Somehow, a pushy news reporter managed to cross over UA's protective border, successfully triggering the alarm. Izuku is glad that's all it was, but at the same time, he feels an odd sense of foreboding. Like there's more to this mishap than what meets the eye. He doesn't comment, though. He doesn't see a point. When the incident is resolved and the students finally calm down, a lot of this is due to a stunt Ida pulled in the hallway at the cafeteria. Izuku and his classmates return to Class 1A. Aizawa-sensei? Aizawa turns to him. He's bundled in his sleeping bag in the corner of the room. What is it, Midoriya? Can I make an announcement real quick? Aizawa shrugs. You're the class rep, do what you want, he says. Just keep it short. Izuku nods, thanks him, then steps up behind the desk to face his classmates. They watch him, waiting. Kirishima gives him 2 thumbs up in the seat behind Bakugo, and Uraraka beams and waves at him encouragingly. Izuku takes in a breath. I've been thinking about this for a little while now, Izuku says, and I think Ida should be the class representative. Instead, he hears a collective gasp, a particularly loud one from Ida, but goes on anyway. Don't get me wrong, that I'm honored to be the class rep, Izuku says, fiddling restlessly, but I'm not suited for it. Earlier today, when everyone else was panicking, Ida was able to keep a level head and calm everyone down. I think that's a really important thing to be able to do as a class rep, and me, well, he pauses and laughs shakily, rubbing the back of his neck. That I can be keyed of a basket case. This earns a laugh or two from his classmates, and he smiles. Well, I don't have any complaints. Kaminari says, giving Ida a thumbs up. You go, emergency exit. Who, Ida? Nice goin', man. Ida takes in a breath, then rises to his feet. Well, he says, straightening his glasses, if the class rep nominated me, then who am I to refuse? He moves his hand into the air above his head dramatically and shouts, Class 1A. I, Ida Tenya, as class representative, will guide and protect all of you to the best of my abilities. Yeah. Whoop whoop. Yay. Nice going, Ida. Who, emergency exit. Ida meets Izuku's eyes and smiles. Izuku beams back at him. Ah, man, I'm so excited. Kirishima is saying, they're on a bus a little later on that same day, heading towards an off-campus training grounds. Fighting and stuff is great, but rescuing people is really what being a hero's all about. I can't wait. I wonder where we're training. Azui? No. Siu, she always insists on being called Siu, says absent-mindedly, tapping a finger to her chin in thought. I know it's off campus, but is that all we know? It's gotta be a huge facility, whatever it is, says Kaminari. They hit a bump in the road, and everyone scrambles to stay in their seats for a moment or two. We've been driving for a while now, Ashido looking out the window. City streets and buildings zip by around them. How much longer? Stop whining, Aizawa cuts in. He's sitting, arms crossed, in the passenger seat. We're still in the city, so we have a long way to go. Stay in your seats. Ashido slumps back into her seat like she's told, but she doesn't seem happy about it at all. Hey, think about it this way, says Hagakure, her gloves and shoes the only thing the others can see of her. We have more time to talk and get to know each other now. They hit another pothole, and Izuku finds himself thinking they can't leave the city fast enough. He looks out the window absent-mindedly. There's a dark tunnel farther up ahead, cars and trucks zipping by. Well, there isn't much to talk about really, says Kirishima. I mean, we could talk about our quirks, but for the most part, we saw all that during training yesterday. That reminds me, says Kaminari, turning towards Izuku. You came first in the entrance exam, didn't you? How'd you manage that if you break your bones whenever you use your quirk? Oh. Izuku looks away, twiddling his thumbs. Aye. The bus zooms under the tunnel, and they're engulfed in darkness. Immediately, everyone starts screaming. Holy frick! What in the... Oh my gosh! There's a clash and a clatter in the darkness. I didn't know you could. What is that? How do? The darkness vanishes as the bus leaves the tunnel behind them, and Izuku winces at his classmates. Ashido and Hagakure are on top of each other. He thinks it's hard to tell when one of them is invisible, and Siro is on the floor. The rest of them are staring at Izuku in shock. What happened? Izuku asks. In the back of his mind he's thinking, what did I do, what did I do, what did I? Dude! Kaminari exclaims. I didn't know your eyes did that. And my eyes did what? Glow in the dark. Siro cuts in, bouncing to his feet. Did you know they did that, Midoriya? That's okay. He can brush this off. Why yeah, Izuku answers. I always knew they did. I just usually they're pretty faint. They weren't pretty faint a second ago, Kaminari says. He actually looks impressed now, not terrified, which Izuku assumes is a good thing. That's pretty cool, dude. Is it part of your quirk? Or, like, some kind of a mutation, like Ashido's skin? Izuku's never thought of his glowing eyes as a part of a mutation. And maybe, he says, I never really thought about it before. The conversation shifts from Izuku's eyes to mutations in general, with the class discussing their own quirks, and Izuku is glad to be out of the spotlight. It had been a close call, though, Kaminari asking him how he came first in the entrance exam. I'll have to tell them eventually, Izuku thinks, turning towards the window again. They're speeding onwards, out of the city towards their destination. It'd probably be best if I did it before they find out on their own. His friends' conversations fade out of his ears, and Izuku watches the world pass by out the window. The facility is huge. It's a dome-shaped building located a considerable distance from the city. It isn't really out in the middle of nowhere, but it cuts it rather close. Izuku follows Aizawa and his classmates inside the building for their search and rescue lesson, and all the while, all he can think about is Kaminari's question on the bus. It leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. He shakes his head. Focus, he tells himself. Focus. There'll be a time and a place to think about that later. Right now to focus on the task at hand. All Might isn't here. He's supposed to be. Izuku knows Aizawa had told them all earlier, but he isn't. Aizawa notices, too, and he approaches the only other hero in the facility, the rescue hero, 13, known for their work in natural disasters. 13, Aizawa says, where is All Might? He did say he'd be here, didn't he? About that, 13 turns to him, holds up 3 fingers. He won't be joining us today, unfortunately. Ran into some trouble earlier. 3 fingers. 3 hours. All Might's time limit. Aizawa shrugs. Well, it can't be helped then, he says. Take it away, 13. Gladly. 13 turns away from Aizawa and steps towards the students. Everyone, 13 says, I'm glad you are all here. The most important part of being a hero is not what villains you can fight and defeat, but rather, what people you save. With this training grounds, I mimicked several natural disasters: floods, rock slides, shipwrecks, the likes. I call this facility 13 pauses dramatically. The unforeseen Hamilton joint, 13 says, or Yisei for short. Holy crap, Kirishima whispers, eyes wide. It's literally Universal Studios Japan. Ida elbows him. Kirishima yelps and holds his side. Everyone, 13 goes on, ignoring Kirishima, you've only been students for a few days now, but already you've learned so much about yourselves and your abilities. In Aizawa's quirk apprehension test, you learned the heights and limits of your power. In All Might's battle training, you learned what it feels like to use that power on other people. Izuku catches Bakugo glaring at him for just a brief moment. And now, all of you as students, people, and aspiring heroes, 13 continues, that I hope you leave here today with the knowledge of how you can use your powers to save others. There's a beat, filled with gasps of awe and bright smiles. Bravo! Ida claps his hands over his head. Bravo, 13. The others clap and cheer along with him, and 13 takes a bow. That's kind of like what All Might said yesterday, Izuku thinks, his mentor's words echoing through his head. I wonder. He looks down at his hands. Can I actually use my power to? And then, there's a yank at his chest. It's not a physical yank, merely a feeling, but it's there and it's dangerous, and suddenly a feeling of dread washes over him, like it did earlier in the cafeteria, only this time it's worse. It's so much worse, it's so much more real. Aizawa-sensei. Izuku lurches forward, and his fingers curl around his teacher's wrist. Aizawa turns to look at him, and slowly, his eyes widen. Izuku wonders what kind of face he's wearing, how panicked he looks, but he puts it out of his mind. Something's wrong, Izuku says, and he's almost overwhelmed by that horrible, drowning feeling. Something's wrong, sensei, something's? On cue, the light bulbs surrounding the dome of the building flicker and go out. Izuku's heart squeezes in his chest, the feeling worse than ever. The students have stopped cheering, they're staring at a fountain in the middle of the facility, and Izuku follows their gazes. That there's something there. A black, gaping something, a swirling abyss of nothingness, like a black hole. Are we already starting? Kirishima asks. He sounds curious, but there's no hint of worry in his voice whatsoever. He doesn't know. He has no idea what's going on. Izuku feels like he's going to be sick. The abyss stretches until it reaches the sides of the facility, and then from its gaping nothingness march. Izuku has to hold down his spirit to keep it in his body. It isn't easy. Not when every instinct of his is screaming, run, get away, it's not safe here, it's dangerous, run, you'll die, they'll kill you, you'll die. There are dozens of them. Literal dozens of them, marching from the black abyss with a confidence Izuku didn't know existed in this world. Villains. They're villains. Two of them, one covered in detached hands, and another taller, bulkier one that looks more animal than human, hang back, but the rest of them, the dozens of them, plunge forward. Stay back. Aizawa snaps immediately, and Izuku and the others jump. 13. Protect the students. Without another word elsewise, Aizawa runs, leaps, and charges at the villains. Believe in him, Izuku tells himself, even as he's grinding his teeth and clenching and unclenching his hands at his sides. Believe in him. He's strong. He'll be okay. He'll make it. Everyone run. 13 says, ushering the group in the direction of the doors. Make for the exit, hurry. The abyss of black swirls in front of them, between them and the one exit, and Izuku screeches to a halt, his knees shaking so badly he's in danger of toppling over. The villain studies the group for a long moment, eyes yellow and glowing within the abyss. This is odd. I do believe All Might was supposed to be here. Is he not? Is it possible that our information was flawed? Information? Flawed? Izuku's mind is ticking like a bomb. What does that? No matter, the villain continues, the abyss stretching and growing. I still have my duty. They're engulfed by the mist. To his left, Izuku sees Uraraka scream, hands in front of her face to shield herself, To his right, Izuku watches Ida tackle Shuji and Siro to the ground, successfully knocking them out of harm's way. Izuku tries to move, tries to get to Uraraka. His eyes are full of darkness, and he can only make out her frame beyond the mist. He hears her scream. My body won't. He's frozen. His legs won't move. Crap, at a time like this? And then he remembers he isn't a prisoner of his own body. Literally. He grits his teeth. He hears screams and shouts around him, and he feels a real tug on his physical body, but not on his spirit. His spirit can do whatever the hell it wants. He dissociates and makes a dive for Uraraka. He reaches her the moment his body crumples to the floor. He concentrates all his thoughts on his hands and shoves, pushing her back. She shrieks again, this time in surprise, but she's out of the mist now. She's out of the danger. Izuku takes in a breath, or what he supposes is reminiscent of a breath, considering ghosts don't breathe, of relief, then turns. The abyss of black is gone, and so are 3/4 of Izuku's classmates. And his own body too, but he's more worried about his missing classmates. It must be some kind of a warp gate, Izuku thinks, teeth gritted behind his lips. Which means that this isn't. Everyone's still in the facility. Shuji says, one of his appendages stretched into the air above his head. They're scattered, but they're all still here. There's a collective sigh of relief from the remaining students, Izuku included, and 13. The mist villain has gathered back into one spot, blocking the double doors leading outside. You cannot win this one, the villain says. You may have avoided getting scattered by my gate, but we will win the war. We have brought with us a weapon capable of killing All Might. Izuku's heart leaps into his throat, or whatever his heart is as a ghost. He isn't quite sure that kind of terminology applies to him right now. They have a way. To kill All Might? Izuku glances over the villain's shoulder at the metal, sliding doors. The easiest thing to do here is phase through the walls and go to get help, but he can only move as a ghost as fast as he can physically run, and while his ghost doesn't feel exhaustion or fatigue or shortness of breath, he'd never make it in time. He looks around. His eyes land on one person in particular. Ida-can. This isn't how he wants to reveal his first quirk to his friends, never in a million years, especially so soon after meeting them, before they can establish trust. But even if they hate him after the truth comes out, even if they think he's a monster, that's better than watching them die. Tenya's mind is racing. He doesn't know where the rest of the class is, but they're here, in this facility, which means that they're safe for now. They aren't off somewhere held captive by villains. They're here and they're safe for now, and they can be saved. Tenya grits his teeth, staring at the villain and trying to think of just how to counter him. The door is right there, so painstakingly, tauntingly close, but at the same time, to get there means to face the villain head-on, and Tenya doesn't think he can do that. He knows it's unwise to try. Ida. Tenya jumps. The voice comes from right beside him, but there's nothing there. Just blank, empty space. Ida, listen. Tenya tenses. Now that he thinks about it, he knows that voice. He knows the person behind the voice. Midoriya, he says, matching the low, quiet tone of his friend. The Warp Gate villain doesn't seem to hear them, which is good, he's not meant to. Yeah, it's me, Midoriya says. His voice sounds strained and hollow. I am sorry, Ida, Tenya looks around for a moment, but all he sees is blank, empty space. Midoriya, where are you? Tenya whispers harshly. What's going on? What are you doing? Something clutches his wrist suddenly. It's cold. There's a reason I came first in the entrance exam. Midoriya's voice hisses and unwillingly, chills go down Tenya's spine. It's Midoriya, yes, he knows it's Midoriya, but his voice sounds. I see. Cold. Not angry or furious, just cold. And maybe a little bit dangerous. Ida, listen to me. Midoriya's voice brings Tenya back to the present. And he nods, listening. If I give you an opening, can you run and get help? Tenya's head snaps towards Midoriya's direction. It's still just blank, empty space. Midoriya, you can't expect me to leave everyone, Tenya says. If I escape alone without anyone else. The coldness sinks into his wrist further, and it's only now that Tenya realizes Midoriya must be squeezing him. If you escape alone, Midoriya says, and go get help right now, you're going to save us. Tenya grits his teeth. Midoriya. Do it, Ida. He really does not like the tone of Midoriya's voice, and he finds himself thinking, is this really Midoriya? Is this really him? Ida, please, you have to. The voice is still hollow and dangerous, but now there's desperation there, too. This is definitely Midoriya. That tone gives it away. You have to go, Ida. I know you hate it. I know that I know how much it is, but sometimes. There's a beat. When Midoriya's voice comes back, it's thick and choked. Like he's crying. Sometimes even though you hate it, running is all you can do. Tenya grinds his teeth together. Midoriya, he says, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. That's fair. But I trust you, Ida finishes. I'll be back soon. I won't let you down, I won't let any of you down. Please, Midoriya, if you can, please keep everyone safe. Just while I'm gone. I'll be back soon. Midoriya's cold, invisible, not quite real fingers squeeze his forearm. Don't worry, Midoriya says in a voice still hollow and low, but determined. I'm going to protect them, all of them. I promise you, no one is going to die today. Izuku knows he's running out of time. For the past 30 seconds, he's felt a tug and a pull at his spirit, and he wonders where his body actually ended up. Is it drowning? Is it burning? He assumes it's drowning. The sensation is all too familiar to him, after being nearly drowned by the sludge villain what seems so long ago. I have to hurry, he thinks, the tug stronger than ever. If I don't hurry. And then it stops. The tug and pull and suffocating yanking of his spirit stop, and he finally has some breathing room, even though that term doesn't really work considering ghosts don't breathe. It doesn't take Izuku very long before he realizes what's happened. Someone saved me. That's the only thing that makes sense. He doesn't think his body died. He's never actually thought about what would happen if his body died without his spirit in it, but he assumes it isn't good. He believes that he isn't dead, and he believes that somewhere, wherever his body is, one of his classmates saved him. He raises his head towards the threat at hand. The Warp Gate villain is lording over them, confident, like he has all the time in the world, and Izuku narrows his eyes. I've never used dissociation to fight before, Izuku thinks, sinking his teeth into his lip. The only time I ever tried was when I was attacked by the sludge villain, but it didn't work because his body wasn't solid. I wonder. Now then, says the villain, rising to an even greater height. Our objective here was to kill All Might, but as he isn't here, it seems that isn't possible. However, what better way to wound the symbol of peace than to kill the students he's sworn to protect? Izuku thinks. Being a ghost. Izuku feels fear, but it's different than the fear he feels as a person in his own body. He doesn't feel pain, and even though he can feel emotions, like fear and anger and sorrow, he can't fully click with them. He can't feel the extent of them. However, right now, faced with this, maybe that's a good thing. If I concentrate, Izuku shuts his eyes, focusing all his will into his hands, arms, feet, and legs. Interacting with the physical world always has backlash on his body, and he knows this, but he'll take backlash to losing his friends any day. Can I actually fight with this power? He slides up to Ida again. Ida, he whispers as loudly as he dares, are you ready? He doesn't want to imagine how confused Ida must be, but his friend doesn't question anything. Ida nods. Ready when you are, Midoriya. Izuku shuts his eyes, summons his will, then opens them again. Let's go. A part of Tenya wants to laugh at the absurdity of this situation, but most of him really just wants to scream. He's leaving his classmates behind, all 19 of them, and not just that, but he's leaving them behind as the class representative, when he just promised them this morning that he'd protect them all no matter what. But he can't argue with Midoriya. Not when he uses a tone like that. I'll give you an opening, Midoriya is saying. The cold has disappeared from Tenya's forearm, and a part of him feels empty without it. Midoriya's nothing more than a voice in blank, empty space now. When the doors open, book it. Don't think about it, don't think about us, don't look back, just run. Tenya wants to argue, but doesn't. He nods. Alright, he says. I won't let you down, I swear it. I know you won't. He can hear a smile in Midoriya's voice, but it's definitely shaky and definitely fake. You go, emergency exit. Tenya feels something, a rush of air beside him, small and cold, but there and then it's gone. Midoriya is gone. Midoriya. Tenya grits his teeth. Whatever you do, don't do anything crazy, please. A deep chuckle brings Tenya back to the villain before them, and he turns, fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. Foolish children, the villain says, rising to a greater height and towering over them. His voice is almost refreshing compared to Midoriya's, and Tenya is angry at himself for thinking so. You cannot defeat us, and trying is. He stops abruptly and lurches forward, his bright, yellow eyes going wider. Tenya and the others stare, shock slowly replacing horror. What? The villain says exactly what Tenya is thinking, and he raises his head. There's a beat, and then he stops again, this time shuddering back. What the hell? Zero whispers, eyes wide. What's going on? Midoriya, Tenya thinks, torn between horror and relief. It's Midoriya. It has to be Midoriya. The villain's bright, glowing eyes search the students. Which one of you is doing that? He asks. What are you doing? Stop that. He shudders back again, shaking his head back and forth. I said stop that. Am I the only one who's confused by this? Ashido murmurs. Oh, or are we all lost? I don't know what's going on either, Uraraka murmurs back, teeth gritted, eyes wide. They're scared, they're all scared, and Tenya thinks, maybe he should be a bit more scared himself. But he isn't. He knows it's Midoriya, and if anyone can buy them time, it's him. Midoriya is Zuku, the boy who came first in the UA entrance exam, beating out even powerhouses like Bakugo. The villain turns back to them. He isn't happy. This is not a game, the villain tells them gravely. Your lives are on the line, do you really? There's a clang, and the villain goes flying. Uraraka, Ashido, Zero, and Shuji leap backwards in shock. The villain doesn't go flying very far, a fair few feet up and away, but it's enough to give the students a moment to breathe. What was that? The villain's voice rings, curious. He swirls in front of the door again and shakes himself for just a moment. Whichever one of you is doing that, if you value your life, I'd advise you to stop. Funny thing about that, actually. It's Midoriya's voice again, cold and icy, but definitely him. There's another clang, like something slamming against metal, and the villain goes flying again. The students don't flinch this time, just stare. That I don't value my life. Midoriya, Tenya thinks, fists balled at his sides. He has no idea what his friend is actually doing, but he knows it certainly can't be anything smart. Are you insane? Wait a minute, W's that? Uraraka's eyes are wide. Was that Deku? No one answers the question. The villain was expecting the hit this time, and he regroups, his body swirling back into place again. This is getting tedious, the villain says. Please, whoever you are. There's another clang, but he doesn't go flying this time. It's more of a knock, actually, like knuckles against metal. He has a physical body. It's Midoriya's voice again, and it's desperate but authoritative. Like a captain commanding an army. He has a physical body. We can beat him, you guys, come on. I'll cover you. The villain's eyes narrow. You little brat. Uraraka is the first to react, running forward. Her eyes are narrowed now, and her balled fists swing back and forth at her sides. I don't know what's going on, Deku, she says, bringing her hands toward her chest and tapping her fingertips together, but let's do this. This knocks the rest of the students, Tenya included, out of their daze. They race forward like-minded, Zero, Shuji, Tenya, Ashido. I'll pin him down, Zero says, flanking. Uraraka and moving out his elbows. Come on, you guys. We can do this. I'll wait for an opening. 13 shouts from behind them. Everyone be careful. Remember, when it comes down to it, saving your own life is equally important to saving the lives of the people around you. Got it. Uraraka hollers back, still running. The mist villain shrinks back, but he doesn't seem afraid. Merely fed up. Please, stop this, the villain says as the students charge. Do you have death wishes? An invisible someone slams into him. He flies backwards and hits the double doors back first with a very audible clang of metal against metal. Why you? The villain thrashes and struggles, but doesn't move. Let go of me. Nothing changes. He's pinned there, unable to move, and Tenya sees what Midoriya meant now. The villain does have a physical body, shrouded by mist but completely obvious now. He's being pinned by his physical body to the double doors behind him. It's Midoriya, Tenya thinks again, and he wonders how many times he's thought that in the past 5 minutes. It's Midoriya. And Tenya finds himself wondering just what the hell kind of person he's friends with. He finds himself realizing just why Midoriya came first in the entrance exam. Uraraka, now. It's Midoriya's voice again, desperate, strained. It's definitely him pinning the villain to the wall. Then, Uraraka runs towards the scene. She shivers when she gets close, and her eyes go wide for a moment, but she doesn't falter. She presses her hand flat against the villain's physical, metal body, then leaps backwards. Also, for the record, Midoriya's voice rings out again, and suddenly the villain is yanked away from the wall, not of his own accord. If you die today. Midoriya invisible. What the hell? Midoriya swings the villain around and launches him up into the air. You will not be missed. The beat. And then, Zero turns and runs in the direction opposite the door, swinging his tape around. Was that a pun? He says, grinning. You're definitely Midoriya, then. He sends a strip of tape into the air, it latches onto the villain's body, and Zero yanks him further away from the door. It doesn't take much for the villain to break free, though, and then he's swarming back, he's coming back and he's angry. Ida! Run! Tenya's head snaps in that direction. The double doors are opening. Slowly, painstakingly slowly, but they're opening. Go, Ida! Shuji yells, and he leaps into the air as the mist villain comes back. His wing-like appendages close around the villain's body and contain him. Hurry! Hurry! It's not what Tenya wants to do, but he does it anyway. His engines roar to life, and he makes a mad dash for the growing space between the double doors. The space is barely big enough for him to squeeze through, but he does. As he passes, he runs through something cold, something there but not there, and he shivers involuntarily, but doesn't stop. It's Midoriya, he thinks? And it's reassuring. It's Midoriya. It's all right. He breaks out of the USA. Sunlight and fresh air have never felt so good. At the last second, Tenya glances over his shoulder. He can't see Midoriya, but he hears his friend's voice, ringing through his ears like a chainsaw. A cold voice, an icy voice, an authoritative voice. But also, a voice filled with relief. Midoriya's voice. Run, Ida. The doors slam shut with a resounding clap, and Tenya does run. He focuses his attention on the road ahead of him and sprints, pouring every ounce of strength and energy into his quirk. He knows he's leaving his friends and classmates behind, but at the same time, Midoriya is with them. Nervous laughs and socially anxious Midoriya. Self-sacrificing, pun-loving Midoriya. Silent, glowing-eyed Midoriya. Cold, icy voice Midoriya. Blank, empty space Midoriya. Leading them into battle with the authority of a war hero Midoriya. Midoriya's words ring through his ears. Don't worry. I'm going to protect them, all of them. I promise you, no one is going to die today. Without meaning to, Tenya smiles to himself. You were so adamant that you weren't a leader, but, Midoriya, you truly are incredible. He speeds on, leaving the USJ behind him. He doesn't look back once. Well, the mist villain studies the group of students before him, the echo of the slamming door ringing through Ochako's ears. This is problematic. I did not mean to let one of you to escape. 13 steps forward, hand outstretched. You made a mistake, attacking us, the hero says. The small cap on the forefinger of their spacesuit opens, and a gaping black hole begins to swallow up the villain. For a few seconds, it looks like it's working. And then the villain begins to laugh. 13, he says calmly, as though he isn't being swallowed up by a black hole. Your work as a hero is outstanding. However that you are naive. Turn it off. Ochako jumps, it's Deku's voice, but it doesn't sound entirely like him. She knows it's him, she knows it is, but at the same time. 13, turn it off. Something's wrong. A warp gate opens at 13's back and channels 13's black hole there instead. 13 lets out a sound somewhere between a choke and a shriek. Ochako watches, frozen, as a part of the hero's suit is torn off, into abyss, and it stops abruptly. The villain flinches back unexpectedly, closing the warp gate, and 13 falls to their knees, gasping for breath. 13. Ochako kneels beside the hero, hands hovering over them in concern. Are you? I'm all right, 13 says in a strained, pained voice. It stopped in time. I'm all right. A few seconds more, though. Ochako swallows the lump in her throat and raises her head. She sees the villain, but she knows he isn't the only person there. Deku, what are you doing? The villain raises his head. This has gone on long enough, he says, towering over the students once again. Which of you has the wind? Quirk. The wind quirk? Ta. The villain turns towards the voice. So do Ochako and the others. I'm kind of insulted, to be honest. It sounds like Deku, but seriously, if that's what you think of me. There's a pause. A long, dramatic pause. When did I go wrong? No, this is definitely Deku. His voice shakes, though, and Ochako wonders if he's just telling jokes now to try and ward away his own fear. She's not sure how well it works for him, but it works for her. A little bit. Maybe that's part of it too. Maybe he's doing it not just for himself, but for the rest of them. To keep their spirits raised in this time of terror. I don't have time for this, the mist villain says with a long, droning sigh. I will be going now. I have other matters to attend to. He folds in on himself and vanishes within his own warp gate. Across from her, Shuji scoffs. So he takes off like a coward, then, he says, rising to his feet. Makes sense. You guys? Ochako and those around her jump. The voice is so much closer now. Deku's voice. Deku, she calls, not really expecting an answer. She gets one, though. There's something cold on her forearm, and when Deku's voice comes back, it's soft. Hollow and icy, but soft. Quiet. Yeah. It's me. Dude, where? Zero looks around, his eyes falling on the blank, empty space beside Ochako. I mean, I can hear you, but it's a lot to explain, Deku says, and there's a heaviness to his tone that wasn't there before. I'm sorry, but the escape route is clear. At this, Ochako raises her head. He's right. With the mist villain gone, their escape route is wide open. They can leave now. Ochako isn't quite sure what to think about that. On one hand, they can leave, they can make a break for it and leave the villains and this nightmare behind them. But the villains don't make up everyone they'll be leaving behind. 13 is unconscious now, not gravely injured, but unconscious. There's a long while, a long gap of space before Deku speaks again. Uraraka, Ashido, Zero, Shuji can you help 13 out of the facility? Ochako's head snaps up. What? Deku doesn't answer. Rather, he goes on. As soon as you're outside, try and get as far away from here as you can. Don't look back, just move forward. Wait, without you? Ashido bounces up beside Ochako, eyes wide. What about everyone else? The rest of the class? We can't abandon. I'll make sure they're safe. There's something in Deku's tone, something dangerous, that makes Ochako believe him instantly. She doesn't even have to physically see him to know he's right for a fact. The villains don't stand a chance against someone with a voice like that. Be careful, Ochako says. I remember what 13 said. You have to think about your own life, too, Deku. She does not like the silence that follows. Yeah, Deku says finally. I'll remember that. She doesn't believe him. She has no reason to believe him. She opens her mouth to say something, but there's a rush of something beside her, something cold, like wind, something there but not there. And Deku's gone. She stands there for a moment. And then, determined, she turns to the others. You heard him, she says, and doesn't mention the fact that hearing him was all they did. Let's go. This freaking Essex. Who elbows a villain in the face. Quirk activated. The villain hits the ground, unconscious, blood pouring from his nose. We came here to learn how to save others, not save ourselves. Bakugo fires off an explosion into another villain's face. The villain is on the ground a second later, sprouting at least 2-degree burns. They're petty villains, Bakugo snarls. All of them. Edge turns. Around them are about 7 villains in total, unconscious and wounded some way or another. What do you mean? Ejiro questions. They're weak, Bakugo snaps. It's like they were thrown into the whole being a villain thing yesterday. Other than that warp gate and the other 2 standing at the front, they're barely even dangerous. Ejiro frowns. I'm okay, he says. So we should be fine? The others too? You think they're all right? Like I've got a frickin' clue, Bakugo growls. If they can't fight off these loser villains, they shouldn't be here in the first place. Ejiro pauses, taking in the unconscious villains around them. Bloodied, burned, broken bones. Yo, Bakugo, Ejiro says, why do you hate Midoriya? Bakugo whirls around so quick it's almost frightening. What the hell did you just say to me? You heard me. Why do you hate Midoriya? Ejiro isn't angry, okay? Maybe he is, a little bit, when he thinks about the fact that Bakugo is treating these villains the same exact way he treated Midoriya during battle training, but he is curious. That's something he won't deny. Like, is there something he did to you that made you hate him? Ejiro goes on when Bakugo doesn't answer. Is this some kind of a grudge? Bakugo glares at him. Drop it, weird hair. The way I treat Deku is none of your frickin' business. I have a name, Ejiro tells him. And so does Midoriya. Also, what the hell makes you think this isn't my business? Midoriya's my friend, Bakugo, and as such, this has everything to do with me. Shut up, Bakugo snarls. Ejiro puts up his hands. I'm not trying to fight you, he says. Believe me, we have enough to deal with without fighting each other. But I've been thinking about this for a long time now and… Freaking drop it, weird hair. You really do hate Midoriya, don't you? I said drop it. It's like wait. Ejiro stops. His eyes go wide. Bakugo, are you scared of? Shut up. A blast goes right by Ejiro's head, and he leaps to the side. Bakugo hadn't been aiming for him, so of course it didn't hit him, but still. It was enough to leave his ears ringing. Don't bring it up again, Bakugo snarls, and he turns and storms off. Ejiro watches him go. That's weird, he mumbles to himself. Why the heck would Bakugo be scared of him? He puts it out of his mind in favor of pursuing his classmate. Aoewa. Be quiet, Mineta, Tsuyu says, pressing 2 fingers against Midoriya's neck. He's breathing. He hadn't drowned, thank goodness. She'd pulled him out of the water in time, but it's faint, and she doesn't trust it. He's dead. Mineta shrieks instead of listening, burying his hands in his hair. His eyes are wide with horror. He's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead. He's not dead, Tsuyu says, and she says it as confirmation to herself, too. He still has a pulse. It's faint, but it's there. It's very faint, actually. Faint and sluggish. Tsuyu watches Midoriya's chest rise and fall, shallowly but steadily, and tries not to freak out. Did you see him get injured? Tsuyu asks Mineta. I didn't see anything. Mineta wails. All I saw was that weird mist villain's fog. Oh no, he's dead. Tsuyu ignores him in favor of looking for injuries on her friend. There's no head wound, but he's breathing too shallowly to just have fainted. There's a problem here, definitely a problem, but she can't find anything. If he isn't unconscious, Tsuyu thinks, then what is this? And then, Midoriya's eyes snap open, and he knocks heads with her when he shoots upright. Tsuyu flinches backwards, rubbing her head, but she's too relieved to be upset. He's alive. Mineta cheers, rushing forward. He's alive. Midoriya, Tsuyu says, disliking how pale he is. Are you? Midoriya rolls over on his hands and knees and throws up. Tsuyu reels back in surprise at first, but manages to keep a level head. She wraps one arm around Midoriya's waist to steady him and rubs his back between his shoulder blades. Mineta is screaming again, which isn't helping. He's dying, he's dying, he's dying. Tsuyu turns to him for a brief moment. Mineta. Yes? Shut up. Mineta doesn't, though. He just screams again. I'm fine, Midoriya rasps, sitting back. Tsuyu lets him go, but keeps a hand on his shoulder. You're not fine, Tsuyu argues immediately. You were unconscious a second ago, and now you're throwing up. Are you hurt? Midoriya is already shaking his head before she finishes speaking. No, I'm not hurt, he says, pushing himself to his feet. He staggers for a moment, but doesn't fall. I'm fine. Just got a little nauseous. Happens all the time. But you were unconscious, Tsuyu tells him. Getting nauseous like that right after regaining consciousness is a bad sign, Midori-chan. I wasn't that unconscious, exactly, Midoriya says. It's hard to explain, please, you just have to. Beneath them, the boat lurches, Mineta hits the deck, Tsuyu crouches, and Midoriya grabs the railing. His knuckles are white. We're sinking, Midoriya says, even though it's obvious. He looks over the side of the ship, then blanches. How long have those villains been there? Since we dragged you out of the water, Tsuyu answers, filing. To stand beside him. She takes a look at his face, pale, drawn, worried, nothing at all like himself. Midori-chan, maybe you should sit down for a second. You look like you're going to fall over. There's no time, Midoriya says, turning towards her. I'm fine, I promise. And that's the problem, he is fine. There's no sign of injury, no injury at all, and even though he'd been unconscious and puking just a second ago, he isn't hurt. Tsuyu doesn't get it. It doesn't make any sense. All right, Tsuyu says, even though she doesn't like it. She sets herself in business mode and moves to stand beside Midoriya, overlooking the villain-infested waters below. We should get out of here and try to find the others. They're probably no better off than we are. The others are fine, Midoriya says, looking down at the villains in the water. She can almost see the gears turning in his head. They're surrounded, like we are, but they're holding their own. How do you know? Mineta asks. Midoriya lets out a short, hoarse laugh and rubs the back of his neck. It's a long story, he says. I'll explain everything later. For now, let's focus on clearing the shipwreck zone. Tsuyu has no idea what's going on. She supposes Midoriya has always been a bit strange, if that's the right word. His lack of presence, his nervous laughs, his glowing eyes, that scar. And she doesn't really know why she gets the feeling that she can trust him. She can look at his face and tell that he isn't steering her wrong. She knows that he's someone she can trust. She nods. Tell us what to do, she says. Midoriya nods back. I have an idea, he says. It's probably really, really stupid and you're probably going to hate it. The boat lurches again. Midoriya almost takes the plunge, but grabs at the railing again at the last second. They're sinking faster now than ever before. Tsuyu looks at him. You were saying Midori-chan? All right. Midoriya straightens up again, eyes gleaming. With tears, because he was just puking his guts up a second ago, but also with determination. Here's what we're gonna do. Izuku has never used dissociation that way for that long before. He, Tsuyu and Mineta have just cleared the shipwreck zone, leaving a cluster of villains, stuck together by Mineta's sticky ball, behind them. Izuku's middle finger and thumb are broken from firing off one for all into the water, but he can deal with that. It isn't a problem. At least it isn't his arm. He still feels sick though. Remarkably sick. His calves hurt from when he was kicking the mist villain into the air earlier, which is odd, because he'd been a ghost then. I wonder if any injuries I get as a ghost interacting with the physical world are transferred onto my physical body, Izuku wonders, wincing as sharp pain twists through his stomach. If so, I need to be more careful in the future. Midori-chan, what should we do now? Tsuyu asks, and she sounds worried. Don't you think you should sit down now? Izuku shakes his head. No, I'm fine, he says. I'm worried about Aizawa-sensei. He charged into the fight earlier, but he can't fight off that many villains all by himself for this long. Are you kidding me? Mineta questions. He's Eraserhead. He can do anything. It's impractical, Izuku cuts in. Aizawa-sensei is a hero, an amazing hero, but he's still a person. He's a human being and... His stomach twists and turns, and he swallows back the bile in his throat. That we all have our limitations. So what do you suggest we do? Tsuyu asks. We can't get in his way. We're not going to, Izuku says. I'm thinking maybe we can stay on the sidelines and fight off whatever villains come running at him. It's the best way to do this, I think. And it is. He can't think of any other way. Midoriya, look. Mineta lurches forward suddenly, pointing with one hand and grabbing Izuku's arm with the other. Look. Izuku turns, and so does Tsuyu. The hand villain has finally stepped into the fray, and he runs at Aizawa. Aizawa dodges. It looks easy. The hand villain swings at him, grabs his arm. Aizawa's skin on his elbow peels, but he doesn't give up. He yanks away, jerks away, and something yanks at Izuku's chest. A feeling he'd had before. The same feeling he'd had when they stepped into the USJ. The same feeling he'd had a second before the villains showed up. And it's happening again. Stay here, Izuku demands, and he leaps out of the water, onto the shore, and takes off running. Midori-chan. Tsuyu's voice screams back at him, and she sounds more scared than he's ever heard her, which shocks him. But no, whatever's about to happen here cannot happen. Izuku can't let it happen. He can't let it happen. No. The villain, the bulky one, the one with animalistic features and crazed, deranged eyes, steps forward. Izuku's feet pound as he runs, as he tries so hard, but there's too much distance. It's too far, he won't make it. The villain's fist comes down on Aizawa's head. There's a sickening crack, then a thump when Aizawa's body crumples to the ground in a bloody, broken heap. Blood pools steadily beneath his head, minimal at first, but then there's a lot of it, there's so much of it. Izuku screeches to a halt, shoes digging into the dirt and bringing up dust. He stares, eyes wide, feeling vaguely like he's being strangled. His heart is pounding, and half his stomach is in his throat, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he'd overused his quirk earlier. Aizawa-sensei. Izuku stares. His head feels like it's stuffed with cotton, but he can hear a high-pitched whir. His ears are ringing. His mind is blank. He can't tear his eyes away from the scene in front of him. He can't move. All he can do is watch. The bulky villain slams his fist down onto Aizawa's arm. There's another sickening crack, and Aizawa lets out a short, guttural shriek of pain. The villain grabs him by the hair and slams him into the ground again, once, then twice, then again. Stop it. Izuku's ears are ringing. He feels dizzy. He wants to throw up. Stop it. Another crack. Another shriek. Then silence. Stop it. The mist villain appears, swirling by the hand villain's side. Shigaraki, the villain reports, and the voice sounds odd in Izuku's ringing ears. The hand villain, Shigaraki, turns. What? Did you kill the students? No, but one of them managed to escape the facility. They're going to get help now. What did you just say? Shigaraki's hands are trembling at his sides, and Izuku knows it's out of anger. He's seen this kind of anger enough times to know exactly what this means. Kurogiri, if you weren't our only way out of here, I'd kill you now. The Warp Gate villain doesn't seem very surprised. Remorseful, maybe, but not surprised. Perhaps this has happened before. Reinforcements will arrive at any moment now, he says, voice unbelievably steady. What should we do? There's a long moment. Shigaraki's fists clench and unclench over and over, one finger at a time. And then he stops. His shoulders slump and he looks down. I see, he says, facial expression covered by the detached hand on his face. I guess this is game over for us. All Might isn't here, which means in the end, our main objective, there's no possible way. He trails off, scratching his neck with two pale, bony fingers. However, even if we can't kill him, he turns his head and looks directly at Izuku. His eyes are bloodshot and wide, crazed, almost like the inhuman creature pinning Aizawa down. The villain smiles. That we can wound his pride as the symbol of peace, can't we? And then Shigaraki runs. Towards Izuku. Izuku is close, maybe 10 feet away, and even as Shigaraki closes the short distance between them, all he can do is stare. He knows Shigaraki is running at him, he knows Shigaraki's quirk can kill him, he knows he's in danger. But he feels nothing. Nothing at all. The whole world slows until it's barely moving at all, and Izuku takes in his surroundings with a sudden sense of clarity. Tsuyu is reaching for him. Her shriek of his name rings through his ears, barely distinguishable and full of fear and terror. Shigaraki is reaching out towards him, fingers spread towards Izuku's face, mere inches away now. Behind him, the inhuman monster towers over Aizawa, and blood pools on the ground beneath the hero's head. Izuku's spirit, his being, the person he is, gives a lurch. A thought pierces through his mind like a spear. I want to save him, he thinks, and absent-mindedly, he reaches up, touching the cold metal of the bell around his neck. I want to save all of them. Izuku takes in a breath. For some reason, Kirishima's words a joke at the time, but something he remembers regardless come back to him. Izuku lowers his hand back to his side, and despite what's going on around him, he feels oddly detached. A realization washes over him as Kirishima's words echo through his. You can't kill someone. Izuku raises his head and narrows his eyes at Shigaraki. Who's already dead? He drops. It's probably the stupidest thing Izuku has done thus far, and he's done a lot of stupid things. Izuku's body hits the ground, but his ghost doesn't move and his gaze doesn't falter. His pain is gone, his stomach isn't churning anymore, and he leaves as much fear as he can with his physical body. Shigaraki skids to a halt, staring down at Izuku's limp, unmoving form. What? Shigaraki questions, unaware that Izuku's still staring at him as a ghost, still waiting for his time to strike. Did he seriously faint? Are you kidding me? Izuku grins, if just to trick his own lingering fear, and he concentrates all his energy on his leg and slams his knee into Shigaraki's stomach. Shigaraki lets out a choked sound and stumbles backwards, hands moving to cover his mouth. The mist villain Kurogyari starts forward, but Shigaraki swings an arm out to stop him. Something's wrong here, Shigaraki growls. His eyes are on Izuku's body. Izuku's ghost hovers over it, unseen. I'll take care of this. He runs for Izuku's body. He isn't expecting it to move. Well then, Izuku thinks, guess I'll just. He zooms back into his body, swings around, and kicks Shigaraki in the kneecap. Shigaraki trips backwards again with a shriek of pain, and Izuku, once more associated with his own body, scrambles off the ground and takes a few steps backwards. His stomach is burning, but that doesn't matter. Shigaraki glares at him, hands holding his leg. You tricked me, he snarls, his voice a low hiss. You tricked me. Yeah, I did, Izuku says, and he doesn't like the way his body feels achy and burning and afraid. I'm a coward, what did you expect me to do? Come at you from the front. Shigaraki isn't happy, this is obvious. Izuku resists the urge to dissociate and keeps his spirit firmly in his body, if just for now. It doesn't seem like Shigaraki figured out his quirk yet, which means, as long as he has that, he has an advantage. Hey, I've got a question, Izuku says, striding forward. His confidence is a lie, and so is his smile, but he forces himself to keep it up. Have you ever thought about dropping the whole villain thing and becoming, a plumber instead? Shigaraki blinks. A plumber? Yeah. Izuku keeps walking and he grins. You seem like you'd make a pretty swell handyman to me. What? Shigaraki stares at him, like he can't quite tell what Izuku is. What? What? Yeah? Izuku says. He stops walking, leaving about 5 feet between himself and the villain. I've got to hand it to you, it's pretty. Shigaraki lunges at him, hand outstretched towards Izuku's face. Izuku drops his body just a split second before Shigaraki's fingers touch him. Shigaraki flinches, not expecting it a second time. And Izuku concentrates on his hand, ball his fist, and socks Shigaraki in the face with all his might. Shigaraki stumbles backwards. The hand on his face goes flying off, and it lands a few feet away. Izuku doesn't quite know what to feel, but he imagines if he was in his own body, he'd feel pretty sick. Shigaraki turns and grabs the hand off the ground, and Izuku uses this moment to slip back into his body. His stomach burns and churns, but he swallows back the bile in his throat and refuses to throw up. He can't let Shigaraki see any weakness. If he shows weakness, he's dead. He straightens up, just as Shigaraki settles the hand back across his face. "How dare you?" the villain seethes. "How dare you mock father?" "Father!" Izuku repeats, frowning, ignoring his burning stomach. The longer this goes, the less scared he feels, and even though he doesn't understand, he doesn't complain. He can fight like this. He can use this power and fight. He can fight like this, if just for now. If just long enough for the reinforcements to arrive. If just long enough to let the others escape. "So, you have daddy issues?" he says. "Is that what this is? Is that why you attacked us?" Shigaraki glares at him. Izuku wishes he had his helmet considering how many times he's going to need to drop in this fight. It'd be really nice to have. But all he has is his PE gear and a skull he hopes is hard enough to withstand what he's about to do. "Come on," Izuku says idly, grinning at Shigaraki, "we all have problems. Believe me, whatever you're dealing with, killing people isn't a good coping method." Shigaraki lunges. Tsuyu is watching the fight, but she doesn't know what's going on. As Shigaraki lunges, Midoriya drops, like a sack of bricks. He drops, and he lays there, crumpled in an unmoving heap, but then, as Shigaraki lunges for him, something hits him. A tangible thing hits him hard enough to throw him backwards, a blow to the stomach, it looks like. But there's nothing there. Nothing there at all. It's just blank, empty space. Blank, empty space. And Midoriya's lifeless body. "What? Hey, Shigaraki, that reminds me." Shigaraki's legs jerk to the side, torn from underneath him, and he falls and slams into the ground. A second later, Midoriya comes to life again, rising to stand again. He's pale, and his hands are shaking, but he's grinning. "Why did you attack us?" Midoriya asks. Shigaraki gets up, slowly. The Warp Gate villain starts toward him cautiously, but Shigaraki stops him yet again. "Go away," Shigaraki demands, straightening up and staring Midoriya down. "If anyone's going to take down this insufferable brat, it's going to be me." "Oh, you already think I'm an insufferable brat?" Midoriya asks curiously, ping his head to one side. He lets out a short, barking laugh, and so you can't tell whether it's cheerful or fiendish. "Believe me, you ain't seen nothin' yet." "Burn in hell," Shigaraki yells, throwing himself at him. "By the way, you never answered my question." Midoriya rushes forward as well to meet him in battle. He stumbles, but doesn't fall. "You attacked us, right?" "For? I attacked you, Shigaraki swings an arm, Midoriya drops to the ground, but a second later, he's moving again, kicking Shigaraki's feet out from under him. Shigaraki trips, but doesn't fall, he's expecting it. "So I could kill." Shigaraki lunges. Midoriya doesn't drop this time, but he does leap out of the way. He falters upon landing and almost stumbles. "All might." "So that's it," Midoriya says. "That's all? But why?" Shigaraki stops mid-attack, his outstretched arm tensing. "What? Why do you want to kill All Might?" Midoriya asks, and he says it so calmly and collectively that it's like they're discussing dinner plans, not life and death. "What's your objective, Shigaraki?" "I want to destroy what I hate," Shigaraki tells him, lowering his hand to his side. "I want to. But why?" Midoriya questions. "Why do you want to destroy what you hate?" "Yeah, sure, you hate it, but what are you fighting for? What kind of world are you trying to create? A world without All Might? That doesn't make sense by itself." He's stalling, Tsuyu realizes, and the words leave bile in her throat and ice in her chest. He's stalling. He's keeping all the attention on him to give everyone time to escape. "What the hell are you talking about?" Shigaraki's eyes are narrowed, and his voice is full of venom. "I want to destroy what I hate, that's it." "That's cute," Midoriya says, "but what are you fighting for?" Shigaraki falters. He doesn't know how to answer. "See, I'm fighting for a lot of things," Midoriya goes on. "I'm fighting because I want people to live in a world without darkness. I want people to be able to smile and look forward to the future. I'm fighting for the friends I've made, for the people I love. So tell me this, Shigaraki." Midoriya runs. He's pale, he's shaking, he's scared. And he's charging into battle, grinning. "What are you fighting for, Shigaraki?" You say all you want to do is destroy what you hate? Don't make me laugh. Midoriya throws a punch, Shigaraki dodges and tries to land one of his own, but Midoriya's body drops. Something invisible slams into Shigaraki, and he stumbles backwards. A second later, Midoriya gets up again and lunges. My friends, the people at UA were all fighting for something. I'm fighting for something. He drops, Shigaraki reaches for his body, but something slams into him and knocks him back. Tsuyu watches, wide-eyed and dumbfounded. Midoriya. Midoriya real. Physical Midoriya, not blank, empty space. Midoriya grabs Shigaraki's arm. I'm fighting because I don't want to lose the people I love. Midoriya yells. I'm fighting because I don't want to lose hope. Against someone like you, who doesn't know what they're fighting for. Midoriya swings around, yanks his Shigaraki's arm, pulls him over his shoulder. Of course I'm going to beat you. He decks Shigaraki back first into the ground. That you're amazing. Izuku knows he's being an idiot. He knows this is stupid, he knows taunting Shigaraki is only going to make things worse for himself. But he can buy time like this. Ida escaped and is going for help that will be here any second now. Until then, Izuku resolves to hold off Shigaraki, to hold off the villains, to at least keep their attention focused on him. Tsuyu and Mineta are close, too close, if the villains decide to go after them instead. Shigaraki gets to his feet slowly, wincing as he does so, and as soon as his legs are underneath him, he raises his head and straightens up. He doesn't seem especially angry anymore, but Izuku can feel something rolling off him in waves. It's not anger anymore. It's hatred. You know what, I'm sick of you, Shigaraki snaps. You keep running your mouth, talking like you know everything. Oh, you mean like you? Izuku says, trying to keep the waver out of his voice. You come barreling in here, guns blazing, saying you're gonna kill All Might, and you think I'm the one who needs to stop running their mouth? Shut up, Shigaraki growls, and he turns away. I'm through dealing with you. Nomu. The inhuman creature with bulging eyes and visible brains raises its head. It's still towering over Aizawa, but it stopped driving him into the ground a while ago. Shigaraki raises an arm and points a single, bony finger at Izuku. Kill him. Make it as painful as you want. Izuku has just enough time to stiffen. Don't know what I was expecting, but it happens too fast. The creature moves too fast. 1 second, it's standing over Aizawa, and then the next second Izuku is knocked off his feet, pain searing through his lungs and ribs like hot coals. He slams back first into the far wall of the UJ. He feels something snap, and he grits his teeth to keep from crying out. Before he hits the ground, the Nomu is back, it's right in front of him, and it grabs him by the throat and slams him against the wall again. And then Izuku can't breathe. He's vaguely aware of Tsuyu calling his name, Mineta screaming, but that's it, and it's very vague. His ribs are messed up. The Nomu is squeezing him, not tight enough to snap his neck, but tight enough to close off his airway. He doesn't have the chance to do anything, doesn't have the chance to think, doesn't have the chance to dissociate. The Nomu yanks him back away from the wall, then slams him into the ground. His ribs snap. His ears ring. He hears screaming. Maybe it's him. It's like that time with Bakugo. The pain is grounding him in reality too much. He can't escape. He can't leave. He can't dissociate. He's trapped. Kill him. Make it as painful as you want. A slow death, then not the Nomu's going to take its time killing me. And Izuku hates that, as his mind is dulled with pain and the Nomu drags him up to slam him into the ground once more, the one thing that comes to mind is, I can buy even more time now. There's a crack. There's a slam. There's a scream. Tsuyu wants to JRK her head. She wants to shove herself beneath the waves to drown out the scene, but she can't. She can't move, she can't think, she can't turn away. All she can do is stare. The Nomu isn't trying to kill him. Not yet. It slams Midoriya into the ground once, then twice, then again. Midoriya is still conscious, somehow, and blood runs down the sides of his face and leaves dark red splotches on the ground. They can't. Mineta's voice is soft and choked. He's like Tsuyu, desperate to look away but unable to. I can't take this. Please stop. I can't. Tsuyu can't breathe anymore. Her train of thought derailed the moment the Nomo first attacked Midoriya, and it hasn't gotten back on track yet. She doubts it will. She can't think, can't move, can't look away. Can't breathe. Stop. Shigaraki's voice seems to come from far away, even though he's close. The Nomo raises its head towards its master, and Tsuyu watches Shigaraki approach steadily, leisurely, like he has all the time in the world. Midoriya is on the ground, gasping, bleeding, but he's alive, and the Nomu is standing over him, thick fingers buried in his scalp. Shigaraki kneels across from them and looks at Midoriya. "This is what happens when you get in our way, brat," he says simply. "Really, I don't see how you could be so stupid." Blood cascades down the sides of Midoriya's face, but he doesn't back down. He stares at Shigaraki, even though he's obviously in pain, even though there are tears in his eyes. "I did it," Midoriya chokes, spits, and the words sound like they hurt to say, "because I'm fighting for something. Something that's worth this pain." The Nomu twists his arm behind his back, and Midoriya winces, snapping his teeth together to keep from screaming. He breathes heavily for a moment, riding out the pain, and then, "Hey, Shigaraki, why you're gonna kill me, right? I'm gonna die." "Yeah," Shigaraki snaps, like he couldn't care less. "Go ahead, say whatever you want. Spew some more heroic bullshit, see where it gets you. It's not like history's gonna remember your last words." Midoriya looks at him. His eyes are blank and cold and dead, and Tsuyu doesn't think anyone's ever looked more dangerous. If you stand for nothing, what will you fall for?" For just a moment, the world stops. Then, a loud explosion rings throughout the USJ, and Shigaraki's head snaps in that direction. The Nomu looks up, startled by the sound, and Midoriya lets out a hoarse, shaky laugh, going limp in the monster's hold. Tsuyu turns, too, looking over her shoulder. There's dust and smoke clouding at the entrance of the USA. "You." Shigaraki reaches out, fingers twitching by Midoriya's face. "What did you do?" Midoriya smiles. If that's who I think it is." He coughs, but doesn't falter. "You're screwed, handyman. Izuku is alive. He knows his ribs are messed up, he knows they are. It's obvious, and he's pretty sure he has some kind of a head injury, but he's alive. The Nomo had hurt him, yes, hurt him badly, and he can already hear Recovery Girl screaming at him for being reckless, but he's alive. And All Might is here. He did it. He held off the villains, kept their attention on him, bought all the time he could. He did his best, fought his damnedest, endured the Noma's punches and slams. And now All Might is here, and he knows he's safe. He knows he's safe, and he knows the rest of his classmates are safe too. Aizawa is safe. The Nomu won't hurt him again. The Nomu won't hurt any of them again. Shigaraki raises his head towards the smoke. "Nomu," he says, suddenly urgent, "kill the brat before." "Before what, villains?" All Might's voice booms overhead, and a second later, the hero is there, and Izuku wants to cry with relief. "Come now," All Might says, grinning, although Izuku can see a slight falter in the hero's vibrant smile. "Do you really think I'd let you kill one of my dear students?" The Nomu screeches, drops Izuku, and leaps at him. All Might retracts his fist and lands a solid blow to the Nomu's stomach. The creature falters, but doesn't stop. It pulls back its own fist for a punch, and All Might retaliates accordingly. Izuku lays there for a while, gasping for breath as the ground trembles beneath him. His spirit isn't glued to him anymore now that he can think beyond the pain. He can dissociate now, if he wants. He can get up again. He can keep fighting. "Young Midoriya, stay down." Izuku's eyes snap open, and he raises his head, just barely. The Nomu and All Might are exchanging blows, shockwaves following every punch. Shigaraki has retreated and is standing with Kurogyri, watching. "I know what you're thinking." All Might calls over to him, pulling back his fist, "But stay down. Have some faith in your teacher, my boy." All Might lets the punch fly, and the Nomu goes flying. A second later, they're at it again. Izuku drops his head back to the ground and lies still. Now that some of the adrenaline has worn off, all he feels is exhaustion, pain, and nausea. He wants to throw up, but doesn't. He isn't sure there's anything left in his stomach to throw up. He watches the fight through half-lidded eyes. He watches All Might and the Nomu exchange blows back and forth, punch after punch, slam after slam, and it looks like All Might's winning. It looks like he's winning, it seems like. There's a pull at Izuku's chest like before, as All Might wraps his arms around the Nomu from behind. Izuku knows what he's going to do. He's going to try slamming the Noma headfirst into the ground to immobilize him, but that tug. Don't do it. Izuku shrieks and All Might stops. If you do that. All Might doesn't ask for an explanation. He stops what he'd been about to do and slams his fist into the Nomu's stomach instead. The suffocating feeling of dread leaves Izuku's chest, and he breathes a short, breathy laugh of relief. He doesn't know what that feeling is, that foreboding, but he makes a note to put it down in his dissociation notebook when he gets home. Why do I have to be the one with the confusing quirk? Midori-chan. 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 Izuku opens his eyes. He doesn't remember closing them and Tsuyu's face swims into view. We have to go, she says. All we'll do here is get in All Might's way. We need to go. Here. She takes his arm carefully and pulls it around her neck. I'll help you. Fine. He lies through his teeth. Literally he's gritting them. It's the only thing keeping him from crying out. I can walk. No, you can't. She pulls him to his feet, carefully, and wraps an arm around his waist. His ribs are burning, but he doesn't protest. We ran into Kirishima and Todoroki. They're helping Mineta get Aizawa to safety. Come on, we'll take it slow. They start walking. Izuku is stumbling all over the place, and he's sure he'd fall if it weren't for her. The ground is shaking and trembling beneath them, and a couple lurches almost knock Izuku off his feet. It hurts. Izuku grits his teeth and tries to fight through it. It hurts. They get a considerable distance before Izuku can't do it anymore. His vision blurs and goes dark for a second. When he opens his eyes, Tsuyu is calling him again, supporting his weight. Why, on second thought, Izuku is in a shaky breath and exhales it as a weak laugh. He hopes it doesn't sound as pathetic as it feels. See, can I just sit down for a sec? Tsuyu glances behind them. All Might and the Nomu are still fighting, but All Might definitely has the upper hand. They're a considerable distance away now, far away enough that the trembling and lurching ground doesn't affect them anymore. She nods. All right. Izuku sinks to the ground, and she sinks down beside him, maintaining a hold around his waist. He's grateful for it. It makes for a nice anchor through the pain in his ribs and head. Absent-mindedly, he reaches towards his neck. His thumb brushes the cold, smooth metal of his bell, and he lets out a sigh of relief. It's okay. Everything's okay now. It's not okay. Everything is very not okay. The Nomu is gone. All Might defeated it, literally sent it into the sky up, up, up and away with a finishing blast and a resounding shout of victory. Only Shigaraki and Kurogiri remain now. Everything is not okay. It's not okay. Nothing is okay anymore. Absolutely nothing. The tug and yank and pull in Izuku's chest is stronger than ever. He's washed with a feeling worse than anything he's ever felt before, worse than the feeling he'd had when he stepped into the USJ, worse than the feeling he'd had right before Aizawa was slammed into the ground by the Nomu. It's worse than any of that. It is so much worse, so much more suffocating, so much more terrifying. Shigaraki and Kurogiri stand their ground. All Might smiles at them, and of course he does, but it's a bluff. Izuku thinks about what happened earlier, the 3 fingers 13 held up. All Might has been running on sheer willpower this entire time. He's out of time. And now there's a tug in Izuku's chest as a feeling of foreboding washes over him. He wonders briefly, if this is a death omen. His spirit gives a lurch. Tsuyu is beside him, watching the same scene as him, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know the extent of what is happening here. She doesn't feel what Izuku feels, doesn't realize how bad of a predicament this truly is. Izuku grinds his teeth together. I can't let him die. He remembers All Might offering him one for all, remembers the days spent training on the beach leading up to the entrance exam. He remembers All Might ruffling his hair, sending him texts to check up on him, visiting him in the infirmary. He remembers All Might joking to cheer him up, remembers the words "you can become a hero." And there's a stronger tug in Izuku's chest. I can't let him die. "To Izuku says, not even facing her, "That hold my body for me. Hold your Midori-chan." Izuku takes off, leaving his body behind, and flies back towards the danger. The pain is gone immediately, and he feels suddenly rejuvenated, energized. Maybe it's because he's not in his body, or maybe it's because he's desperate. I can't let him die. He doesn't know how, but All Might has become something of a father to him. He doesn't know how or when it happened, only that it happened, and he can't let him die. I can't let him die. He knows there isn't time, he knows All Might is out of time, and he knows that there is only a small window in which he has to act. Shigaraki is running. All Might is standing. Izuku is flying. That I want to save him. And then, something odd happens, something that's never happened before. Izuku falls. He falls as a ghost. That's never happened before. Never. He slams into the dirt below, and dust flies up all around him. That's never happened before either. Hitting the ground doesn't hurt. Of course he can't feel pain as a ghost, but it's enough to thoroughly shake him. He raises his head off the ground immediately, still reeling over the fact that he is on the ground and not just hovering over it. He's a ghost. He's a ghost and he's lying on the physical ground. Not phasing through it, like he usually does. Beneath him, for the first time ever, the ground is solid. He looks down at his hands. They're still transparent, like they always are when he's a ghost, but his skin is outlined now, outlined in a faint, glowing green, and he has no idea what this means. What the hell? Shigaraki's breathless, horrified voice brings Izuku back to reality, and he raises his head as the villain stumbles backwards, looking like he's seen a ghost. It's at that moment that Izuku realizes it, and Shigaraki's horror suddenly makes sense. They can see me. He looks around. Tsuyu is behind him, eyes wide and full of shock. Across from him are the villains, staring, horrified. All Might has turned to him, and although he's still standing firm with that unwavering smile, Izuku can see a small hint of fear and shock. A little further away, Izuku sees his own body in a heap on the ground, unmoving and lifeless. They can see me. They can all see me. Izuku raises his head and picks himself up off the ground, a ground that is solid beneath him. He doesn't know what that means, what that implies, but he'll have time to figure it out later. Right now, though, he resolves to fight. He runs. The world around him spirals and fades, and suddenly he's moving faster than he's ever moved before. He feels somehow detached, like he's passenger instead of driver, and this is saying something considering he's about as detached from his body right now as he can get. His thought process is in shambles. He has no idea what's happening anymore, no concept of anything. But he runs. Because he knows his friends are in danger. He knows the people he loves are in mortal peril and he doesn't want to lose them. He doesn't want to lose Tsuyu. He doesn't want to lose Ida. He doesn't want to lose Uraraka. He doesn't want to lose Aizawa. He doesn't want to lose Kirishima. He doesn't want to lose All Might. I can't lose them. He feels something a tug, but it's not of himself anymore. It's not familiar. He feels something grab at him, or rather, several somethings. Something tugs him. Another something pushes him. Another something pulls him. He feels a rush of energy, a burst of power, and words echo through his head. Fight. Save them. The world spirals into white, and he's consumed. Tsuyu doesn't know what she's seeing. Midoriya has always been. Strange. Him and his dumb jokes and his nervous laugh, the way he rubbed the back of his neck when he didn't know what else to do. She's only known him for a little while, but she's picked up so much of his personality, so much of his heart. But somehow, he's also the boy who came first in the entrance exam, beating out people like Bakugu, people with raw power and combat abilities, and Tsuyu has never understood why or how. Midoriya always seemed harmless enough, a mess of smiles and puns and nervous laughter. But now, in this moment she understands it. She understands all too clearly. Midoriya's body is limp, leaning up against her, but she sees him running. She sees Midoriya running towards Shigaraki. His image isn't entirely clear. It reminds her of a rough outline, a sketch if you would, bright green and glowing. But it isn't just Midoriya. Tsuyu doesn't know what she's looking at. Shigaraki steps backwards. Midoriya skids to a stop across from him a little ways away. All Might is there, too, but he isn't moving, simply observing, watching as Midoriya stares Shigaraki down. Midoriya is fuming, emitting a tangible feeling of anger and malice and determination, and so far, the Midoriya Tsuyu knows only possesses the final of those traits. He gets angry, yes, but not like this. Never like this. And that's not even the scary part. Shigaraki lifts his head and takes a step backwards, eyes wide, and Tsuyu almost can't believe it. He'd been confident before, attacking and running and swinging and punching, but he's scared now. He's afraid. Afraid of Midoriya. But that's not it. That's not all. Tsuyu watches. And she notices something she really should have noticed before. Midoriya stares Shigaraki down with a twisted, bright-eyed look, and that he isn't alone. Toshinori watches, too stunned and shocked to do or say a single thing. He watches Izuku's face, sketched in an outline of green Izuku's ghost. That's what this is, and he can see it. For the first time since meeting the boy and, by extension, probably the first time in the boy's entire life they can see his ghost. And Toshinori honestly wishes that's the most unsettling thing about the situation before him, but it's not. Izuku's ghost. His spirit has several scars on his face. There's the jagged one mirrored on his physical body, yes, but there are others, two smaller ones that aren't nearly as noticeable. That's unsettling too, but even so, it's not the most unsettling thing about this. The thing is, right now, Izuku isn't alone. He's standing and he's staring down Shigaraki with a twisted look, but he's not standing alone. There are figures, people, standing with him, their outlines fuzzy and distorted and nearly impossible to make out. There are 7 of them. 7 transparent figures whose facial expressions are clouded and fuzzy, and Toshinori doesn't understand why or how or who. And then suddenly it clicks. His eyes go wide, and his heart skips a beat. 7 figures. 7. One for all. No way. There's no way. Who? Shigaraki's eyes are wide, and his hands, his real ones, tremble at his sides, and all his confidence from earlier is completely, totally gone. He stares at Izuku, horrified, and whispers, "What the hell are you?" Izuku grins, and even though Toshinori knows this boy, even though Toshinori knows he's cheerful and kind and tells stupid jokes, the look on his face sends a dozen icy chills down Toshinori's spine. The boy's smile, as a person, is nothing short of sunshine incarnate. It's the type of contagious smile that you look at and think, nothing can go wrong. It's going to be all right, no matter what. It's a reassuring smile, a bright smile, a hero's smile. A smile Izuku saves for the people he loves. But the boy's smile as a ghost, whether or not he means for it to be, is a thing of nightmares. It's wide, too wide, showing off all his teeth, and Toshinori wonders what that grin looks like to the enemy. He wonders what kind of icy chills are going down Shigaraki's spine. Toshinori takes in a breath. He should really stop being surprised by this kid. You know what? Izuku starts slowly. I'm just as scared as you are right now, Shigaraki. I'm just as terrified. Every part of me is screaming to run, but I'm not going to do that. I care too much about my friends to do that. He takes a single step forward. The figures behind him follow. Shigaraki steps back, shaking. "Kurogyari," he says, "get us out of here." "I'm a coward," Izuku goes on. "I know I'm a coward, and I'm pretty sure that'll never change. I'll always be one, no matter what. But for some reason right now." He looks at Shigaraki with blank, dead eyes, and when Shigaraki steps backwards again, Toshinori almost does the same. "I don't think I'm nearly as scared of you as I should be," Izuku tells him blankly. "I think that the only reason I'm scared at all is because I don't want to lose the people I love. I'm scared to lose them." "Kurogyari," Shigaraki says, "Kurogyari, let's go." But Izuku goes on slowly, taking his sweet time, as far as fearing for my own life is concerned. Behind Izuku, the 7 figures file into place. No, not behind Izuku, with Izuku alongside Izuku. If Izuku notices, he doesn't comment. A wide, toothy grin splits his face again, and his bright eyes lock on Shigaraki like a viper waiting to strike. Only in this moment, Izuku is more terrifying than any viper. The dead have no reason to fear the living, Izuku says, still grinning. And I'm a ghost,